Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Our show today is brought to you by Big Willie's, 1717 South Main Street. Head down there for the hot lunch. Grab yourself one of the very affordable drink specials. If you just want a soft drink, that's fine too. The craft food menu sells the place on its own. Maybe shoot a game of pool, watch a little college basketball, watch some hockey, watch some highlights, watch whatever is on the big screen TVs, and just enjoy your time at Big Willie's, presenting sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chiesa is going to swing by today. Jonathan Tavernari will be our red and blue guest, and then Jeff Schwartz to recap a college football season that is now totally complete. In the books, all said and done, and the Indiana Hoosiers are your national champions.
Who?
A sentence we never thought we would utter on air or anywhere else. Indiana football reigns supreme in the land. Are we serious now? This is bananas. It's truly something I never thought we would hear or see happen in the world of college football. We've had some surprise and some Cinderellas and some people be successful in the college basketball space. We have never experienced a story like this in college football. I don't think we ever will again, because there's no possibility for us to experience that again with the losingest program of all time from just a couple seasons ago. In fact, they shed that moniker just this year in November, just last year in November, 2025 in November.
This season.
Last
year. Yeah.
And nobody else can do that. Nobody else can make the complete turnaround from losingest ever to national champion.
I mean, I suppose Northwestern could. They're now the losingest
They
ever.
could leapfrog back.
But
Indiana and Northwestern just
switching
year
off.
after year trading off. Now you're the losingest again. Now I don't.
But Northwestern isn't like Indiana where it's like you're only known for being good at one particular sport, and it's not the one that you just show that you're the best at, right? So I feel like Indiana is unique even in that even if that were to happen. Which
The
is
Indiana
not.
Hoosiers win a national championship, and they cap off the most story, but not only is it something that stands alone by itself for serious examination as perhaps the best college football season ever, and it is undoubtedly the best turnaround story in college sports and maybe all sports that we've witnessed in our lifetime. But the individual nature, the personalized nature, the storylines of the fact that Fernando Mendoza did this at a stadium he had grown up going to, watching a team that didn't want him coming out of high school. His dad was a high school teammate of Mario Cristobal. They've done a great job of publicizing all this stuff. Imagine being Mario Cristobal right now, and you're like, I didn't even let my old high school buddy's son walk on to my team. And now I'm wallowing in the grief of losing to that same person who's from 3 miles away from here in a national championship. That kid's got a Heisman Trophy. The kid's got all the endorsement deals he ever wants for the rest of his life in the state of Indiana. That kid's got an NFL future and a national championship. And look, it's not a direct translation of if he'd gone to Miami, he would have a national championship for Miami. But still, the fact that the story arc was just so fictional almost. It's Rudy times 100. Because Rudy didn't win a national championship. Rudy wasn't the reason. Rudy is not a Heisman Trophy victor. Notre Dame didn't want Rudy. He stuck it out until they were like, fine. And all of his former college teammates are just like, yeah, it didn't really go down like that. And people actually really don't like that guy.
The jersey on the coach's desk scene didn't happen. Is that what we're saying?
Well, with Joe Montana comes out and says that didn't happen. That's it's a little bit of a stab to the old Samwise Gamgee heart. Sean Astin, great movie. Well done, sir. Highly fictionalized account. You couldn't script it any better for Indiana, honestly. A kid who grew up in the shadow of the stadium, Christopher Columbus High School, which, by the way, how cool is this? They showed it during the broadcast last night. Christopher Columbus High School had like a watch party going on out on their football field. They had like a VIP section set up. They had TVs and all these things and loungers, recliners, little tables, snacks on the football field to watch the national championship game. They were going to be winners no matter what, because either Miami wins, their hometown team, and the alma mater of their head football coach and several other people, Alex Mirabal, their offensive line coach, etc., or Indiana wins, and the guy who was just there 4 years ago, your dude, Fernando Mendoza, now you're celebrating his championship. So for Christopher Columbus High School, it is a win-win, and they don't have class today.
Oh, they let him take another day off after MLK Day.
They let him take the day off today because they were so focused on, everyone's going to be partying.
Or hold on, was the loophole that they didn't recognize MLK Day? They had classes yesterday, and then they had...
There's absolutely no shot.
There's no way that's how that happened, right? We'll do the holiday Tuesday instead of Monday.
I think that's awesome. Also,
awesome.
By the way, the entire state of Indiana, no class today. No class yesterday.
As in like what you were talking about with the high school basketball games getting canceled, you're talking
Yes.
high schools across the state.
They're just like, you know what? This is not going to happen again. But it might next year.
Football state. Indiana
is now a football state after being a basketball state as long as you and I and your grandparents and your great-grandparents have been alive. Kurt Signetti pulled off the impossible. The post-game speeches, everything was just fantastic. It was...
We saw Signetti smile in his post-game speech.
It was a Disney movie playing out in real time. Not only does Fernando Mendoza complete like that storybook journey, but also the guy who intercepted the game-sealing pass redeemed a situation for his own uncle, Glenn Sharp, 20 whatever it was years ago, in 2002, so 24 years ago. Glenn Sharp gets called for a controversial pass interference call against Ohio State while he's playing for Miami.
Absolutely the right call, by the way.
Wrong call, terrible call. And
I can't even say that with a straight face. My Buckeyes were really fortunate on
would have been a game-winning play.
Yeah, in
overtime.
Fourth
down. It's done. He gets called for pass interference in the end zone, extends the drive, Ohio State scores, wins, right? That guy's nephew, Jamari Sharp, intercepted the pass for Indiana to seal the national championship. Another Miami kid, another Dade County, South Florida kid that grew up in the shadow of Hard Rock Stadium, probably wanted to go to Miami just like his uncle did, playing for Indiana instead, and that dude seals the game with an interception. So, the most important plays in a national championship game, 2 of the 4 most important plays were made by kids from Miami who were in some way snubbed by Miami, and they beat Miami in Miami Stadium to win a national championship. If you saw this in a script and you're a movie exec, you'd just be like, it's too unrealistic. The quarterback can be from here, but the guy who gets the interception to seal the victory, he can't also be from here. And we can't have the storyline of him redeeming a national championship failure for his uncle. Okay? That's too confusing for the viewer to follow. There's not a reasonable plot point here. So let's go with the Mendoza kid. The Sharp storyline can't be in this fictionalized account that we're doing. This is real. We watched it. One of the greatest seasons in the history of college football, capped off in Cinderella storybook fashion by Miami kids beating Miami in Miami Stadium, where Indiana had more fans in the stadium than Miami did. They talked about it on the broadcast. They talked about it all over the sideline reports. You could tell watching the game, the louder fan base, the more robust fan base, the more visible fan base because of the colors in the stands, the Indiana Hoosiers, the entire state of Indiana, the whole city of Bloomington was in Miami and in Hard Rock Stadium. That is where the Hurricanes play. If that doesn't show you the transient nature of Miami's fan base, can you imagine, and it will never be the case, but can you imagine if Utah was hosting a national championship game at Rice-Eccles Stadium and Oklahoma fans or Notre Dame fans or USC fans or whoever they're playing against had more than half the tickets in that stadium? It would be a shame upon the state. It would be an unforgivable sin of sports fandom to allow that to happen. Miami, the city of Miami, the Hurricane fan base, everyone should be brutally ashamed of themselves for allowing that to be the case. The only thing that I think explains it or justifies it is if you are a Miami fan, you didn't even think about buying a national championship ticket until they had actually beat Ole Miss and they had actually won the game to make it to the national championship. If you're an Indiana fan, you probably watched their first playoff game and were just like, okay, I'm gonna book my national championship tickets now. We're gonna be there. I'll just bite the bullet and sell these things off, scalp them if I have to. But I mean, if you're an Indiana fan, you probably watched them go to Eugene earlier this year in the regular season and said, all right, I'm booking my national championship tickets now. I'm getting my hotel. I'm getting my rental car. I'm going to make a couple restaurant reservations. I am going to bank on my Indiana Hoosiers at least being in the game. That's how impressive they were. 16-0 has not been done since 1896.
Oh.
The Yale Bulldogs. This is pre-helmet football. That's the last time a team has been 16-0 in the Division I world.
I didn't even realize that any team had played that many games in a season ever, because for so long it was 11 games, and then it was 12, and then it was 13, and obviously we've expanded it with the expanded playoffs. So that's I would have guessed that Indiana would be the first.
Let's see here. Wait, that can't be right. I thought 1890. Was it 1894? I got to find this. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. 1894.
19th century OC.
1894.
Two centuries ago, technically.
The team finished with a 16-0 record. They shut out 13 of 16 opponents.
Wow. They threw 3 forward passes a game.
Okay, let's do a little education on the 16-0 1894 Eastern College Football Independent Champion, the Yale Bulldogs. 16-0, Penn, Villanova, Penn State, Harvard, Geneva. I mean, these are the give me a break. At Trinity, Brown. They had a 10-0 victory against the Crescent Athletic Club. They beat Williams 23-4. That's how different the scoring was back then. They beat Lehigh 34-0, Dartmouth 34-0, the Orange Athletic Club 24-0, the Boston Athletic Association 23-0, 12-5 victory at Army.
12-5.
The Volunteer New York Athletic Association, 42-0. At Brown, 12-0. Tufts, great medical school, not a wonderful football team, 67-0. 1894 Yale with the dominant victory there. Lehigh again. They played Lehigh again for the second time, 50-0. So they outscored Lehigh 84-0 in a single season.
My gosh.
In 2 different games. That sucks, Lehigh. Chicago Athletic Association, 48-0. 12-4, they beat Harvard. 24-0 against Princeton on December 1st to finish it off. And that was a game played in front of 30,000 fans.
All right.
The Harvard-Yale game only had 23,000 that year.
Not a real rivalry.
When they demolished Dartmouth, there were 700 people in attendance. 1894 Yale was a wagon, but
yeah, they were.
But they were also beating up on teams called Crescent Athletic Club.
Yeah, so I actually weirdly have a little bit of knowledge about this era, OC, because I read a book about the earliest professional football.
Okay.
Which started in 1890s. Those athletic clubs, that it was common for those athletic clubs. They're semi-pro. They're amateur, technically, and they gradually started paying these players, and they became semi-pro and then fully professional. But they're like adults, college-ish age football community clubs that eventually became professional, a lot of them. And so, yeah, it was pretty common for the college, because there wasn't a ton of colleges playing college football yet. As you can tell from that schedule, they scheduled a lot of these community athletic clubs too, which is pretty fascinating.
Which, by the way, are probably groups of guys that played rugby and were probably like playing baseball together.
Yeah.
And then we're just like, you guys want to do a football game? I mean, it's the equivalent of you showing up.
It's like a
8th Ward versus 16th Ward.
Yeah.
And just being like, wow, they got some hoopers over there. But also you might show up and they'd be like, no, nobody here plays basketball.
It's guys that worked in the mine or worked somewhere,
firefighters,
or in the steel mill or whatever, that are like, yeah, I'll play football too. I'll play baseball too.
Which, by the way, is unfortunately something that is lost in American society.
Absolutely.
Would be the coolest thing ever if we still had this. The New York Athletic Club still exists, that was doing a lot of these things. It still exists. They have a rugby club, but these things are so rare now. They're only in major cities, and only guys who have, like, I don't know, independent wealth are able to do that. Just be like, oh yeah, you want to play a pickup football game on a Wednesday afternoon? Yeah, I don't have to work. I don't have to pick up my kids. Like, yeah, I'll be part of that team. Anyway, that was part of American life back in 1894. And Yale ended up 16-0. And honestly, I'm probably being overly dismissive of how good Tufts was back then.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, a lot of people would probably scoff at the thought of Yale being a football power at one point, but they were. Like, those Ivy League schools were the only football powers for a long time.
And then the service academies were great for a while. And now we're in an era where Indiana is great. Indiana is the national champion. And Indiana, I know that LSU national championship team that was 15-0 is, for most people, the high watermark of the greatest college football seasons ever. Indiana, 27-14 over Old Dominion to open the season. 56-9 over Kennesaw State. 73-0 over Indiana State. Sorry, Sycamores. 63-10 over Illinois. 20-15 over Iowa. That was the late game heroics, the toe tap catch.
Yeah, it was. The Oregon game was a really tough game for them. You're going to get to that score, but you could argue that in the regular season, Iowa was really their only tough game. I mean, Oregon was tough, but Iowa was the only one-score game in the regular season. They at least were able to pull ahead and get a couple score on the road against Oregon.
So maybe they were looking ahead a little bit to Oregon, the trip to Eugene. They escape against Iowa.
I'm forgetting Penn State. Sorry.
30-20, they beat Oregon. 38-13 over Michigan State, 56-6 over UCLA, 55-10 over Maryland, 27-24 against Penn State, 31-7 against Wisconsin, 56-3 against Purdue, 13-10 against the number 2 team in the country, Ohio State.
You don't have to bring that one up.
38-3, they smash Alabama. 56-22, they smash Oregon. 27-21, a tough, hard-fought victory. Great job by Miami to keep this one a game, to keep it close. We were talking about it before the show. You never really felt like Miami was going to win the game until they held Indiana to that final field goal.
And it's like the door's open.
And it's like, okay, now can they drive? Can they put together a game-winning drive like they did against Ole Miss? And instead, it's a storybook ending for Jamari Sharp, who gets the game-sealing interception.
That's crazy that you had – we all knew about the quarterback story. They publicized that really well leading up to the game, all season really, but especially leading up to the game. But Sharp also had a family member who played for notable Miami team, and he's also in his hometown looking to win a national championship against a school that he would have been somewhat of a legacy kid at, that overlooked him. And the fact that his uncle Glenn Sharp was involved was the one called for that absolutely correct call in 2002.
Terrible call. And look, it's not just that. The Becker
crazy.
kid, right?
Yeah, Becker.
The Becker kid
Chuck.
who caught those back shoulder fades.
He was
a couple
incredible
times.
all year.
He was great all year. In this game, you don't win unless he makes a couple of those big catches, right?
Yeah.
And that's a guy that they were just like, I don't know, man, you might not be good enough. And he stuck it out. He ended up being a prominent player in a national championship game.
It didn't end up being a touchdown, but it was him that dragged like 3 defenders into the end zone early in the game, right? But stepped out of bounds though. I believe that was Becker. Like incredible game by him.
Yeah, just unreal game. By the way, Indiana overcomes a team that never makes mistakes, never hurts themselves. Their Big Ten offensive lineman of the year, their left tackle, with a false start that takes you – it was going to be a 1 yard, 1.5 yard conversion. It would have been 2nd and 1. You need to get that, and then the game is over, basically.
Yeah, that's the drive that they end up kicking the field goal, leaving the door open.
His false start pushes him back. Miami's defense accounted well for themselves all night, especially that front four, and you don't get anything going. You have to kick the field goal. Because of that, sprinkled a little extra drama. Again, this is a Hollywood movie, ladies and gentlemen. The all-American caliber guy that never makes a mistake makes a mistake in a national championship potential game-siding moment? What? And they still overcome it. So let's cast the movie here. All right? Let's cast the movie. Curt Cignetti said 3 games ago, make a hell of a movie. I agree with him. Who's playing Curt Cignetti? I was looking this up last night. Curt Cignetti, he's 64 years old, which means you take all your favorite Hollywood actors and you say, actors in their 60s, I got some options here. Actually, this is the golden age of actors in their 60s.
If you're an 80s or 90s kid, you know it's all of your favorite actors or all of the A-list actors in your favorite movies.
If you're Curt Cignetti's agent, you're on the phone right now with Walt Disney Studios, and you're saying, like, look, we will sell you the rights to Curt Cignetti's, you can do his name, image, and likeness thing. We will sell you the rights, but you got to have Brad Pitt play him. Brad Pitt, come on. Hey, they're in the same age group, okay? Brad is not realistic as Curt Cignetti. Okay, fine. Maybe not Brad. He's more of a sexy leading man kind of a thing. We'll settle on Tom Cruise. Same thing. You can't have Tom Cruise play Curt Cignetti. Okay, who can give me that raised eyebrow, grumpy look better than anyone? And you've got myriad options out there. Like Steve Buscemi's a little too ugly to play Curt Cignetti. He's also in his 60s. Gary Oldman. What do you think of that one?
I could see Gary Oldman. Also, here's the thing about Gary Oldman, too. Dude's a chameleon. He can make himself look like anything. So
he was a great Winston Churchill. He gained like 100 pounds for that.
Well, he's also Sirius Black in Harry Potter, which I had to do a double take when I realized that's the guy who's also Commissioner James Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy. Like he and his makeup team, whatever they always have done a great job of making him look like anything. So I can see Gary Oldman. Let's
go through this. I'm gonna throw out a name. You say yes or no. Okay. Are we inviting him to the casting call? Okay. Tom Hanks. These are all actors in their 60s.
Sure. Yeah, Tom Hanks.
Okay. Tom Hanks is invited to audition. Denzel Washington. He could go method. He could go whiteface.
Yeah. I don't know.
Denzel Washington and whiteface as Curt Cignetti.
Maybe Denzel Washington can be one of his, maybe a different character.
George Clooney, is he invited to the audition? Or is he too handsome?
I think Clooney's too Brad Pittish.
Okay. What about Colin Firth?
Firth?
I think I would rather have an American actor play him.
Yeah.
Respect to Colin Firth. Respect to Gary Oldman.
Could be a little reverse Ted Lasso thing, though.
It could be. It could be. So are we inviting Colin Firth to the audition?
I love Colin Firth.
877-353-0700, by the way, if you want to give us your recommendations. Hugh Grant?
Hugh Grant. Yep. I love Hugh Grant, but probably not.
Liam Neeson?
Liam Neeson, yes. Oh, my gosh.
Curt Cignetti, played by Liam Neeson, and that you put a little side plot in there where between film study sessions – he hunts down bad guys.
Yes. Which Curt Cignetti, you absolutely could be convinced that he would do that.
Now, this guy, he might be the best choice. He's 70. He's not in his 60s anymore. He's 70 years old. But just picture him with the stance, the hands on the hips, the eyebrow raised. Kevin Costner as Curt Cignetti. He might be my number 2. All right, we're going to get to my number 1.
Kevin Costner.
Are we inviting Woody Harrelson?
I like Woody Harrelson. Why not?
His look is too distinct. He can't be a chameleon into Curt Cignetti. What about J.K. Simmons? He's also 70, but he's jacked right now. You could have him. Russell Crowe. No, I'm not going to.
J.K. Simmons would have the would get the RBF, this Curt Cignetti RBF.
Daniel Day-Lewis, he goes full method when he's an actor.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis would have to become a college football coach in order to play the role.
Yeah.
That would be like what he did last of the Mohicans. He disappeared into the woods and lived wearing buckskin for real for like 3 months. They couldn't find him to do like promo shoots and things like that.
How's he supposed to do the role if he's not actually one of the characters?
So here's who I think really should play the role. We're going to invite all these guys to the auditions, but I think the person that really has to play Curt Cignetti in the film adaptation of the Hoosiers' full-on turnaround from losing his program in college football history to 2025 season national champions, number 1 team, 16-0, not since 1894. Yale, have you seen this done? Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Walter White as Curt Cignetti. Half of his career has been built on him making that face.
Yep.
That nonplussed, I'm mad and a little bit dangerous type of face. It's the perfect Curt Cignetti.
And Cignetti he's shown us over this playoff run, especially how he's got like a dry, sneaky sense of humor.
Yeah.
Cranston can nail that.
Absolutely.
He is in different cameos and Malcolm in the Middle. He's nailed that type of like, I'm not overtly slapstick funny, but I do have a sense of humor thing.
This one's sneaky from 2702. I actually thought about this one. Jim Carrey for Kurt Signetti. He can really over-exaggerate those faces.
Yes.
Nicolas Cage. That would be so
my
awesome.
Gosh.
Nicolas Cage. Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, unfortunately, is too old now.
Yeah, I have one that's probably too old, but is really good at the grumpy face too. Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones. Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones are they're rounding into their 80s, so that'd be a little bit insulting for Kurt Signetti. Hey,
probably.
Josh Brolin from 6844.
Josh Brolin.
This one is off the radar for me, but Nick Offerman, Ron Swanson,
yeah,
as Kurt Signetti.
Someone on the Dan Patrick Show, they were trying to cast the movie too this morning on ESPN 792.1 FM. Someone said Stephen Root. I thought that was decent. He's
Richie says Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton.
He's too busy filming Landman. Steve Carell 7913 says Steve Carell.
I love Steve Carell. I'm not sure he's right for
it. Mike on the text line says there are things to talk about. Why this dribble? What you're looking for is the word drivel. First of all, dribble doesn't fit here. It's drivel. Second of all, Indiana won the national championship, Mike, and Kurt Signetti said it'd be a hell of a movie, so we're casting Kurt Signetti in the movie, Mike.
You know what? You know where dribble does fit? With our next guest, Gordy Chiesa.
That's right. You know what? I'm going to ask Gordy Chiesa who would play Gordy Chiesa in the Hollywood adaptation of his movie.
Yeah.
How's that for dribble? It's the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on ESPN 792 FM. Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA insider, joins us. Gordy, welcome. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing well, but almost as good as IU last night also.
How about it? We talked about it a lot, Gordy. You know, this is a
Yes.
team that pulled off the greatest turnaround from a program standpoint in the history of college sports. They cap it off with a national championship last night. And, I mean, is it proof of concept? Is it proof of, like, the changing of the guard in college football? Is this going to be a one-season outlier in your mind?
I think it's going to be more just parity because of the NIL money. But also, let's not forget about quarterback Mendoza did everything for his team. And, you know, whether it's the NFL or high major college football, just like also in basketball, where the perimeter guys, if those guys can make plays, especially with their feet, everything changes. So think about Mendoza, what he did. Undefeated 16-0, wins the Heisman Trophy, wins the national championship, and a storybook season. So there's nothing like it. So good for him and good for IU. Tremendous coaching. Again, I'm a football fan. Tremendous coaching and just unbelievable as far as team chemistry. Just watching from afar.
It was great to see. We've been talking about it. We will keep talking about it. Also, they're going to make a movie out of this. We're trying to figure out who should play Kurt Signetti and Fernando Mendoza. Who would play Gordy Chiesa in the Gordy Chiesa Hollywood movie?
Oh, it's easy. Nicolas Cage.
Yes, I love that idea.
Nicolas Cage, yes. I love him.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage is Gordy Chiesa. It'd be the role of a lifetime for him. I like that.
That's dangerous for him. God bless him for him. But speaking of role of a lifetime, Sean, yesterday was a MLK celebration day, and in San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama helped celebrate that with an unbelievable, sensational performance, Sean. This guy is generational talent. Here's a quick math about it. 33 points, shooting from the field, 10 for 18, 7 for 12 from threes, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. And so the Jazz had no answers for him like many teams do. And he led the Spurs as far as just the overall fluidity of how they play offense, how they pop the ball in perimeter. They shoot from the field, 56% from the field, and from three-point range, 42%. So the Jazz had no chance of guarding them just collectively.
When you have a guy who's capable of doing that, of going off like we can see, you know, he's not the only guy, but from a coaching standpoint, what do you do? What do you say to your team? Do you just say, I mean, throw 2-3 guys at him? How do you make adjustments to a night like that from a player like that?
Well, it's all the above. So the first thing you want to do is be with him, pick him up way above. See what happens. The question is that he's a big guy that plays outside. So philosophically, do you play a big guy guarding him on perimeter, or do you go your best defender as a mid-sized guy? And then once he gets into the scoring area, now I know that's an interesting word to say. We'll say on the 23-foot radius, that's when you double team him. So you try to pressure him up the floor. You go small against him. He gets in the scoring area. If he starts backing down and not facing the basket, it's an automatic, we call it the nearest guy trap. And then off that, you rotate. If he goes into the block right now, you have to try to front him and get help side and pressure the passer. And the last point about it would you go zone. So usually speaking, teams that play zone, especially shown after a timeout, it takes away some of the offensive rhythm of the players, meaning the opposing team. So I would go zone, I elongate the catch, I would trap him, and then I would pick him up early and be much physical as I can, and then try to get him to be a passer versus being a scorer.
We saw a little echo from the past. Kevin Love at one point was the best rebounder in the NBA. He had a big rebounding night, 11 boards for him last night. I don't think we're going to see a lot of this, but it was a bit of a throwback.
No, very much. And it's all position. He rebounds with 2 hands. And so a lot of times guys, for all the wrong reasons, they try to cup rebound. And that's when I call finesse rebounding. But with Kevin Love, he's a 2-handed rebounder. He gets that ball and throws that incredible rocket 2-handed chest pass over his head to as far as igniting a Jazz fast break. So Kevin Love, at 38 years old, still has a game. And so if I'm a playoff-type team, I'm staring right at him because his contract is absolutely team-friendly. He makes the NBA minimum for a 10-year player, which is basically $3.2 million. I'm looking at him to try to solidify my team. So, for example, if I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm looking at Kevin Love to try to come to the team to be, quote, minimum, the backup center as the Celtics try to go deep in the playoffs. A team like that.
Is he the most likely Jazz man to move before the deadline?
Either him or Yusuf Nurkic. Either or. Nurkic, he's played very well, so it's not a question of he hasn't done a good job for the Jazz. His contract, again, is friendly. It's up this year. And so the Jazz, philosophically, he makes $19 million this year. So do the Jazz keep him to back up Walker Kessler? We're assuming that he comes back full force, and the Jazz resign him as far as giving him, technically, they can give him a 4-year extension. All right, so do you sign him? What do you sign him for, meaning Yusuf Nurkic? If you don't say philosophically in the office, we're not going to re-sign him, then try to move him on to it and get more assets because people like him. Again, if I'm the Celtics, I'm staring right at him also that you need big guys. So big guys in playoffs are absolutely critical because they're able to control the boards and be inside presence because the shot of choice in most playoff games is not the three, it's to drive to the basket in a mid-tier game as far as midi-game. And that's when the bigs come into force. In a regular season, bigs aren't as important, but in playoffs they are. So those two guys people are staring at. And the third guy would be Kyle Anderson. If we need a versatile, veteran player to play outside, inside, outside, they should all be in play.
We saw the other day the player votes for the All-Star game and the Jazz men that received votes and didn't. Were you surprised at all to see? I mean, there were guys pretty far down the roster getting at least a single player vote. Is that teammates saying, yeah, Cody Williams deserves to be there? I mean, how does that situation work when you get a vote or two? You as a player, do you know who it's coming from?
No, you don't, unless the person tells you that I voted for you. You're my man. You're my dog. All right, so it could happen. And so now the question is it deserving or non-deserving, or is it a bit of a hypocrisy that a person would get votes as far as that's probably not deserving? Probably, or I'm trying to paint the picture in a broad stroke. And so but the NBA wants that. The NBA wants the voting is 50% for the starters by the fans, 25 by the media it's credentialed in the NBA, and 25 by the present players. And then the reserves, January 30th is the last day. That's when the coaches vote for the reserves, and that's when the coaches can zero in and who they think is deserving as far as making an all-star roster. It's important, Sean, because you're selling your own brand as far as globally, and from a sneakers point of view, the sneaker wars is absolutely critical as far as your advertisers, who has the most players wear their shoe in the All-Star game, and then later on, eventually, will be the Olympics.
I'm looking at the Western Conference voting breakdown, and that formula that you just gave us. Nikola Jokic, he was ranked number 1 in the player voting. His peers in the NBA put him number 1 from their votes. The fans and the media have him number 2. Now, 2 is not disrespect. 2 is like you're way up there. But why shouldn't there be a consensus? If the players think he's the best player in the game, why do fans and media not reflect that?
Trained eye. That's the reason why. Because players have to guard him in a game, and they realize how difficult it is. And also, players are more in tune to their competition if they have a winning game. The fans, just generally speaking, respect guys like Jokic, but it's not the wow factor as far as, highlight films, as far as making dunks or rainbow three-point, arc to the basket as far as splashing threes. And that's how it's viewed most of the times by the fans. And it's not their fault. That's why they're fans. They go for more of the energy, more of the juice, the more gravity points. The Jokic is the players know that he's the best player in basketball, and you can see why he is. And a close second would be like Luka Doncic type, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those guys are all in play also. Giannis, they're all top. You can debate that who's 1, 2, 3, or 4. But I'm saying that number one is by far Jokic.
Gordy Chiesa is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, our resident NBA guru, brought to you by our friends over at Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. The Jimmy Butler torn ACL, how devastating is this right now for Golden State?
Immensely, very much. Jimmy Butler has played tremendous for the Golden State Warriors. He is really, besides Steph Curry, he's the guy that makes it run as far as just the intensity which he plays, right? And he's played well. And the Warriors have right now a 4-game winning streak, and they've won 12 of the last 16. And Jimmy Butler is a big part of that, of what he's done for the team. It's devastating. And besides the injury, it's really a franchise, because now they really, it's highly unlikely that they're going to contend. Even when he was there, their rosters really, there's a lot of different holes in it. And now by him not being there, it affects everything. And the injury, most times it takes usually 10 months to a year to heal. So we're talking about him not playing, if I'm math's right, roughly, let's round it off, until next January 15th. So his contract is this year and next year. And so now the Warriors have a different calculus as they head to the trading deadline. The question right now is, do they trade Jonathan Kuminga, or now suddenly they're back in play as far as playing him more, or they've already committed to try to move him on? So Jimmy Butler, as far as adding to that, this year, when Jimmy Butler played this year, the winning percentage for the Warriors is 60.5%. In the games that didn't play this year because of injuries, they've only won 33% of their games. And so you could see the impact as far as him being a trusted sidekick to Steph Curry and to Draymond Green. Devastating.
Can they overcome it?
It's highly unlikely. It's not lack of effort. They don't have enough. The West is absolutely loaded. So right now, the Warriors are 25-19. They're the 8th seed. So number 7 is the Suns. Number 9 is the Trailblazers. And number 10 is the Clippers. The Clippers are the hottest team in basketball right now. They've won 6 in a row. They're healthy minus Kawhi Leonard, who's got some knee soreness, sort of holding them out. So the Warriors, in their world, if they can get to the playoffs, because they overachieved the rest of the season, they're staring at probably, I'm assuming, the 8th seed. So now they're playing 8 versus 1. They're playing right now, the defending champion would be the Thunder then. So it's highly unlikely that they would get past the first round. And if they do make the postseason, it's really a tribute to their system, Steve Kerr's coaching, and Steph Curry's brilliance.
Since the last time we spoke, Alex Jensen and the Running Utes got their first Big 12 victory of the year, so his first Big 12 victory as head coach. And, it's a milestone that you had to achieve at some point. How important is it as you try to, rebuild your program, do things in a different way, and potentially get back to the glory days of Utah basketball to knock off that first conference win in a very tough basketball conference?
Yeah, very much. The Big 12 is absolutely just very similar to the Western Conference and the NBA. It's loaded. So with that said, impactful. So now the players know that in fact, they lost to BYU in a really hard-fought game at the Huntsman Center recently also. And ironically, they played BYU, besides playing Kansas State tonight in Manhattan, Kansas, they played BYU Saturday at the Marriott Center. So with the first win over TCU, it validates all the hard work and all the little details that in previous games, maybe they only did some of them. In that victory over TCU, they did most of them. And so that helps the practice sessions be more upbeat, and that there's a more element of a conference as far as them being confident that we can beat a good team at home, and let's try to win tonight. I mentioned against K-State, and definitely on Saturday versus really a top flight team in BYU. Now BYU, they got punched in the face by Texas Tech. Just quickly, as far as the local landscape, they were outscored 30-7 in that second half, and Texas Tech got a lot of people that were going to be in the draft, and they did a good job on A.J. DeBancer by really playing really we call walling him up, where he penetrated. There was 3 or 4 guys in front of him. He tried to kick it out to the corners or to the three-point line, and those guys couldn't make consistent shots. But they were more physical against BYU, and that's why they're able to win. Now, BYU's point of view, it's good because now they played a quality team on the road that's hostile, and they got exposed what they have to work on. So from a silver lining, it's important to play against teams so that when you get to the postseason, it happens already before. You can see how they're going to guard us and hit the counterpunch to it.
Gordy, what's your list today?
My list today, Sean, all-time NBA regular season career point leaders. Because this week, Kevin Durant has added to his total, and LeBron James is always keep adding to his total. And, getting back quickly about the All-Star game, it's the first time in 21 years LeBron James has not been selected as a starter. But he will be selected absolutely as a reserve coming to the game, and so well-deserved. Top 10 of all time. Number 10, Shaquille O'Neal. 19 seasons, he amassed 28,596 points. Number 9, the only lefty, Sean, on this list. So I know you're a southpaw. You know you like this. He's playing for the Clippers as we speak. James Harden, 17 seasons, 28,703. Number 8, one of the all-time greats. He broke so many records. He played 14 seasons. Wilt Chamberlain, he scored 31,419. But him and Michael Jordan are tied for the most ever career-wise points per game average. Wilt averaged 30.1 points per game in his career. Number 7, he had a step-back jump shot off the glass. Unbelievable shooter from Germany. Dirk Nowitzki played 21 seasons in the NBA, 31,560 tallies. Number 6, Kevin Durant, moving up every single literally year. Kevin Durant's played in the NBA for 18 seasons, 6th all-time leading career scorer, 31,562. Number 5, Michael Jordan, played only 15 seasons. So Wilt played 14 and MJ played 15. He amassed 32,292. I mentioned earlier, him and Wilt are tied 30.1 most ever points per game. Number 4, Kobe Bryant, Lakers, 20 seasons, 4th all-time, 33,643. But add to this, he's 2nd all-time in most ever 4th quarter points scored. Kobe. Number 3, I had the privilege to coach this guy for 16 years. Karl Malone played in the NBA for 19 seasons, where he scored 36,928, where Karl averaged 25 points per game for his career. With the Jazz, 18 years and 1 year with the Lakers. Number 2, all-time leading scorer, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He played in the NBA for 20 seasons, 38,387. And one little quick note, and that's including only 1 3-point shot made, Kareem. He made 1 3-point shot where the ball came to him with 1 second left. He flinged it up and went in. So he's 36,928, including only 1 3. The number 1 scorer in history of basketball is LeBron James. This is his 23rd NBA season. He has tallied 42,727 points, and he has the most ever 4th quarter points in history of basketball, where he has scored 9,253 points in the 4th quarter, which we know is clutch time / money time. I have a question for you, Sean. Name this player. I'll give you a hint about it. This player really thought about scoring, but he's 53rd all-time in the most points scored. What's his name? Sean, you've heard me talk about him all the time.
53rd all-time in scoring?
NBA, and he never thought about scoring.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll give you one more hint. He was 6'1".
John Stockton.
That's correct. It's amazing.
Wow.
So John Stockton never thought about scoring. I know some I've coached some guys, Sean, that never think about passing in their whole life ever. The only time they pass is when they pass somebody in the hallway. You know what I mean? So John never thought about scoring, but he's 53rd all time. John Stockton scored 19,711 points without thinking about scoring.
It's pretty good for not having it be your top priority.
It's amazing. And he shot for the field 51.5 for his career, 19 campaigns without a dunk in an NBA game.
Look for him.
Kareem made one 3-point shot, and John never dunked the ball in the game. And Kareem's number 2, and John's number 50, 53, which shows you that you could be successful by different styles, and it's about team winning. And last night's game for IU football, it was a classic example. And in basketball jargon right now, someday in the playoffs come out, May and June, whoever champion's going to be, there'll be a bunch of guys that are ultra talented. They play as a unit, but the clutch players in the fourth quarter, they come alive and they make plays out of nothing. That's why they're going to be champions, whoever it might be.
Look for him, or look for the Hollywood movie starring Nick Cage about his life. That's Gordy Chiesa on the Sean O'Connell Show. Thank you, Gordy.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. Stay well.
That conversation brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. If you're looking for a skylight, that's where you go. All right, Hot Lunch is next. Is it time now to talk about a different conference when we say it just means more? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We're getting a lot of great suggestions on who should play Kurt Signetti in the Hollywood movie about his life. Will Ferrell coming in from 1853. He can make some exaggerated faces like Kurt Signetti.
I love the amount of comedians that are coming in with this, because I didn't think that angle until we started getting some of these texts, but I feel like there's definitely a comedic angle that can be explored here with Kurt Cignetti.
Like extra Sahara Desert dry humor seems like the Kurt Cignetti thing.
Well, and listen,
which actually, you know what? The Sahara Desert is not the driest of all deserts.
Not?
So if we're going the driest desert on Earth, Atacama. Okay, the Atacama Desert dry.
Where does the Mojave nearby us rank? That's got to be pretty high.
It's pretty dry. But the Atacama Desert, I think in Chile, is the driest place, or maybe Peru. It's the driest place on Earth.
Somewhere in South America. Gotcha. All right. Learned something new today.
Geography lesson.
By the way, almost all of these great comedians that have been suggested to us also have been known to play do pretty well in serious roles too, and adding just a little bit of humor. So I'm on board.
Is it time for us to stop talking about the SEC as the most dominant, important, powerful, influential conference in college football? I know things move very, very fast in the world of college football now, and normally when you start talking about, you're not a dynasty until it's been, 4 out of 5 years or 3 in a row, you really start talking that way. And the Big Ten Conference is now the dominant force at the top of college football. You look at the final rankings of this season, and it's Big Ten teams. Can we now say that the Big Ten has firmly established itself as the number one conference in college football, supplanting the SEC?
I think for the moment they are, OC, and it's not just because of the last 3 champions coming from the Big Ten, but last year you had more Big Ten teams in the top 5 throughout the year than SEC teams. I think we had a similar thing happen this year. The SEC seems to be beating themselves up a little bit too much, to the point where they're maybe don't have a whole lot left by the time the playoffs roll around. The Ole Miss this year notwithstanding, right? The other thing, you remember when I said on air, midway through the season, I don't think there's I don't think that there's anyone at Ohio State's level this year, and you astutely said maybe there doesn't seem to be another great team out there because there's no great teams in college football. And Indiana proved to be the great team in college football. But as the season wore on, I went, you know what? OC was probably dead on about this, because that's how the playoffs played out, Indiana notwithstanding. So unpredictable, because the teams that we thought were should be super highly ranked didn't end up being that much separation between the teams that are playing in the playoffs.
I think that we have now arrived at a spot where, and it's not permanent, it can always swing back. The pendulum does in everything in college football and in college basketball and in college sports in general, and a lot of it right now follows the money. But I think that, if you're a fan of the Big Ten, if you're a president, university president in the Big Ten, if you're an athletic director in the Big Ten, you can pat yourself on the back right now and you can say, we have become the leaders in the clubhouse. Now, the SEC is still their partner, still their equal, but it's not a one-horse show. It's not the SEC and looking down at everyone else. The Big Ten Conference did the right things, made the right moves, and added a team like Oregon to the ranks that was on the rise and still is. USC is always probably a different coach or a different quarterback away from being back in those conversations. Washington is a respectable program. Obviously, you have your long-standing blue bloods, and now you've added Indiana to this mix of power teams in a way that nobody ever thought that was going to be possible. I think that when you talk about the more respected, the more dangerous, the more prominent conference, the Big Ten has overtaken the SEC. And I think that the SEC knows it, and people tied to the SEC know it, including Nick Saban, who was asked about it. He said, in this day and age, the culture we have now in college football, paying players, name, image, and likeness, transfer, it's an advantage to the Big Ten. You'll never convince me otherwise. The North because people in the South would not go to the North unless you paid them.
Salty from Nick Saban.
I think another thing that you're seeing is that there's a lot of the success that Indiana had this year and that a lot of these teams are having. You don't need dudes from Florida in order to win a national championship. You don't have to overemphasize on your players out of Georgia, although Indiana did have a Miami quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though their Heisman Trophy winner was from Miami, but not the Florida guys that we think of, right? This is a guy who would have been a walk-on at the University of Miami if they had taken him, not a highly touted recruit.
But you know what? Even if Nick Saban is correct and you got to pay players to make them leave the South was paying the players before and keeping them home. So if that diaspora is happening now and under a new rule set where these guys from Texas, from Georgia, from Florida, from Louisiana are just like, yeah, I'll go check out the Mountain West region. I'll go see what it's like at Utah, or I'll go see what it's like at BYU or whatever. And maybe they wouldn't have done that before. Well, that was one of the main points of having these mechanisms in place in college football. There's a lot of negative to it, but the positive is increased parity. And the number one beneficiary of that right now seems to be the Big Ten Conference, and more specifically seems to be Indiana University. That was a nothing 3 years ago and is now the national champion and the presumed number one moving forward next year and who knows for how long. That's crazy. Got to take a quick one here. We've got Red and Blue with Jonathan Tavernari next. The vaunted BYU Cougars basketball team has lost a conference game. Are you panicking in Provo? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. Welcome to Red and Blue, brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Great specials to begin the year. 0% financing right now on the big boy trucks, F-150s, 250s, 350s. Head down to Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Tell them OC sent you. As we welcome in BYU basketball insider Jonathan Tavernari. JT, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. But, since it's in BYU country and it's a Murdoch whom I played with, tell them that JT sent you so you get a bigger discount, guys.
that probably will work to your benefit. I'm sure the JT discount's better than the OC discount. JT, we're going to talk plenty of hoops, but I have to reference a tweet that you sent out about 14 hours ago because we were discussing this earlier in the week, what the success of Indiana Hoosiers football means for all the other teams that were not talked about as national championship contenders for most of our lives. And I think you're speaking to that with this tweet. I've never thought BYU football had a realistic shot at winning a national championship until today. NIL transfer portal, the state of college football today. Kalani's more capable to strike when the stars align. It will happen in my lifetime. Now, there's certainly a lot of BYU fans that feel that way. I think there's Utah fans that feel that way. I think that there's Indiana fans that just watch that happen for themselves, and there's probably Kansas State fans, and who knows, Texas Tech certainly believes that now. And Indiana has proven that it is possible, and we never would have thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that Indiana would be near the conversation for a national champion. Has it changed enough that you can now believe it truly for BYU, for Utah, for Texas Tech?
I mean, Sean, I feel like we could do a weekly investigative, report on NIL, right? And it's something that you and I talk about a lot. And how can you not? And if one thing became clear yesterday is that first of all, the stars have to align, things have to go right, you have to stay healthy. So taking aside all of, some of the variables that you can't control, right? So staying healthy and so on. But Texas Tech was the prime example of being able to put a team together, and as long as you stay healthy or you're able to navigate, you can win. I mean, and Indiana, and the way that they were able to have a heck of a season, I fully believe, I look at Utah, at the Sugar Bowl when Utah beat Alabama. I look at Boise State when they did the Statue of Liberty thingy and they won, big. Where would those teams be if there was a college football playoff then? And then I look at it and I say, if it is all about money and if it is all about an arms race to see who can spend the most and spend the most well, then how doesn't this becomes just something that it's almost close to a formula? Now, obviously, it's not a zero-sum game, but you can then pretty much say that as long as you invest X amount of money, more often than not, you're going to get a Big 12 championship. You're going to get, a bid for the college football playoffs. Now, there's also the example of Kentucky basketball that spent, a crap ton of money this year on their roster. And Mark Pope is having a terrible season, but more often than not, you're going to spend the money and, things are going to work out. And which is why I said what I said. I fully believe that in my lifetime, a school like BYU, who has gone all in on NIL, a school like Indiana, a school like Utah, and a school like, just name it. I wouldn't be surprised, Sean, if UNLV basketball some way, somehow got back to the glory days of the early 90s with crazy NIL money. That's just the environment we're in right now.
Yeah, it feels like even more so in basketball, the upward mobility is possible because just the way the numbers work out. You need like 3 really great basketball players, and now you're in a different conversation. In football, you still got to have, 22 starters, and you better make sure that at least 10 of those guys are elite players if you want to have a truly great team. So, look, BYU basketball has been proof of this concept. They've really elevated themselves on the national stage with NIL and with a big-time coaching hire that I know took them a lot of resources to secure and to extend. And now they've got this journey through the Big 12 starting off very successfully. They finally lost the game on the road at Texas Tech. And, I was having a conversation after Utah played Texas Tech, and the person I was talking to says, look, I've seen BYU and I've seen Texas Tech. Texas Tech is the best team that Utah is going to face this year in the Big 12 Conference. Now that you've seen them up against BYU, how do you rate the Red Raiders on the basketball floor?
That is a bold statement. I am looking at Utah's schedule, and, Utah played Arizona. So, I think that's a bold statement, but I will say this, Sean, between Arizona, Iowa State, Texas Tech, BYU, and now Kansas, right? I think, Sean, for the longest time, all of us were like, what the heck is Darren Peterson never going to play a game this season, right? And so now that he's back, I mean, my goodness gracious, Kansas is looking good. And we haven't even mentioned Houston. So I think those are 5-6 teams that are very challenging, and both BYU and Utah played both of them. But what I do find interesting is I look at the way Utah played TCU, right? And BYU and Utah won a close one. BYU won a close one against the Horned Frogs. And then you look the way that both BYU and Utah played at Texas Tech, right? Where, the score was kind of the same, about a 13, 14-point loss. Texas Tech is just good, man. Like watching the game on Saturday, you could tell BYU hung with them until the 30-minute mark. And then, BYU, they had some issues. AJ still recovering for a sickness. Richie didn't play particularly well. Rob Wright was probably the best out of the BYU big three. They're calling them the Brig Three. But I think he was the best one. But BYU the supporting cast is just non-existent right now, right? Keba Keta is not a scorer. Obviously, when Keba scores and does pullback dunks, and he is able to have a good offensive game, if Keba can get, if Keba can get 10 points a game, I think that's huge. But that's just not the reality right now. And then outside shooting, BYU brought a couple of guys in last year and this year that just are, they're just not delivering, right? And to me, that's the bigger issue. And so that's, to me, watching the game against Texas Tech, because of all of that. And then Texas Tech was able to go a notch above. Texas Tech really hung with BYU into about the 8-minute mark in the second half. And then, boom, they went somewhere that BYU couldn't get. Could we even say that Kevin Young got out-coached? Maybe yes, maybe no, right? As a former player, I would say this. You could tell that Kevin didn't call a timeout for a while to kind of stop the bleeding. And people are like, well, he got out-coached, he should have stopped. But that's a double-edged sword, because a really good coach, trusts their team to be able to go and try to figure things out on their own. And so, but it was a great game. And again, right, I mean, you look at Utah's loss and BYU's loss to Texas Tech. It's not like you lost to Colorado State. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you went up to Wyoming and you lost there. I mean, you lost to the number 15 team in the country. And so, not a terrible loss for either BYU or Utah.
I mean, one of the things that we're going to keep talking about with Texas Tech in football and in basketball is the athletes that they have on both of those rosters. And that can create matchup problems. It certainly has for the University of Utah. Are hyper-athletic teams going to be a matchup problem for BYU basketball? Because they've got some hyper-athletes. It's not top to bottom on the roster, though.
Yes and no, right? I mean, I think we're at a point where we've seen, I would even include Terrence Brown on that category, that it just doesn't matter who you play against. Sometimes you just got it, right? And I would very much put Terrence Brown at the same or very darn close to the level of Robert Wright, Richie Saunders, and AJ DeBunn. So obviously AJ is probably a step above everybody because he's the number one pick, right? But Terrence Brown, what I saw from him when BYU played Utah was incredible. What I saw from him against Texas Tech was really good, right? Maybe just didn't shoot the threes too well, but aside from that, just a solid overall performance to carry the ball. A 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And so I just think that, again, to your point, Sean, right, it is let's just put it this way. It's less difficult to construct a really successful college basketball roster in this day and age because you probably pay one or two studs, over $1 million, and then you pay another two guys close to that are just really, really good. Fill out your team with another 2 or 3 rotation players with about, 400,000 or 500,000, and kaboom, you have a 7-man rotation that can probably get you to the Sweet 16. And so obviously it's easier said than done, and you have a lot of, variables that you don't control that you have to account for, but, I look at those 6 teams I mentioned, right? Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, BYU, and then Texas Tech, right? And I just think that the level of talent and athleticism, to your point, they are at a step above everybody else, where most teams maybe have one player at that level. In Utah's case is Terrence Brown, but a lot of the teams don't have one at that level.
Jonathan Tavernari for some Red and Blue, talking BYU hoops here on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by our friends down at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. So this is a pretty tough stretch for BYU basketball. 4 out of 6 are against top 25 teams. You've got Arizona right after another in-state rivalry game. You got Houston at the tail end of this tough 6-game stretch. And when you've got 4 out of 6 against ranked teams, and then the other one is an in-state rival, that's always at least emotional, even if you are the better team and you're on your home floor. I mean, that could be an exhausting little run for this BYU team. So as we look forward to this weekend and another matchup with Utah, obviously BYU successful 89-84 the first time out, and that was on Utah's home floor. What do you need to see the Cougs do against the running Utes to make this one, I don't know, easier, less close, less of a fight?
So I will say this. I'll answer your question in a different way that hopefully makes sense. I don't care if BYU beats Utah by 1 or 10. What I personally want to see is I want to see non-Big 3 players score more than 35 points. And to me, that becomes the key of every single game that BYU plays, because you already know that AJ and Richie and Rob are going to have, 60, 70, 80% of the points. And that's fine. But at a certain point in time, Sean, some of these guys, as they say on The Wolf of Wall Street, the roosters come home to roost, or whatever is the expression that it says. But, like the chickens are going to come home to roost. Some of these guys are getting $100,000, $200,000. What are you getting their money for? Because if you're shooting 25% from 3, that's not good, Bob. Like, that's terrible. And so to me, Saturday's game against Utah, BYU has a whole week to be able to get healthy and recover and, let guys sleep on a hyperbaric chair, tent for all I care. But to me, the main thing is becomes the supporting cast. I'm not even talking about the bench. I'm talking about Kennard Davis is 4 for 26 from the 3-point line since Big 12 play started. Mihailo is playing about the same amount of minutes as he was last year, and he's shooting less, and his percentages are lower. Tyler Morus were truly brought in for BYU to be able to knock down 3-pointers. He's shooting less than 30% from 3-point line. And so to me, the goal for Saturday is win the game, make sure nobody gets hurt. Can we get someone not named AJ, not named Richie, and not named Rob to be able to help with more than 10 points? To me, Sean, in full transparency, and I know a lot of BYU fans don't like that I said this, I got a slap on the wrist from one of the networks that I work with for saying it, but my goodness gracious, someone needs to step up, Sean, because these guys are actually getting paid to do this.
It's a weird dynamic now in college sports where, we used to be less critical, or you'd criticize performance, but you wouldn't call out individual players and things like that. And now we all have to adjust to the idea that, like, we do it with the pros, we could do it with the college athletes because they are pros. They're paid. They're highly compensated. It's a wild adjustment for everyone.
Oh, and I couldn't agree more, right? And, as I got to BYU and I came from Brazil, obviously I never played professionally in Brazil. The club that I grew up for had a professional team, so I was around pros. And the notion that, like, hey, ticket sales is what funds our salaries, and sponsorships is what fund our salaries. So you are on a performance-based situation where you got to perform, you got to show up. So I've always known that, especially when I got to America, and it is difficult, right? I mean, I've never really hated NIL until, and maybe that's a strong thing. I love NIL. I think the players should get played. And I told this to my mother-in-law yesterday. I never was like, wow, I really wish I had NIL until last week. I was at BYU TV. I was preparing for one of the games that we were doing, and one of the interns is a softball gal that it's interning. She wants to be a journalist and so on. And we did the math, Sean, and in 1 year at BYU, she got more money than I did all of my 4 years, of scholarship. Now, again, right, I've always said this, Sean, you can go back to when you and I started our relationship back in the NCAA tournament, a couple of years ago. I have zero problem, and I've always said that, with NIL and players getting paid. But, I broke a ton of records at BYU. And, the only guy that's made more threes there is a guy named Jimmer. I can live with that. I was the winningest player when I graduated. And a softball player makes more than I did in my 4 years. And I'm supposed to be okay and not criticize a guy that's getting $300,000 to knock down three-pointers. And he's not. My patience has limits. And, to your point, I've always been very critical of players, but now the Pandora's box is out. The genie is never going to go back in a bottle, and that's just the reality that we're in right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a crazy thing, and it's actually a blessing for me that I was never a good college athlete, because I would be bitter, right? If I was if I was a Jonathan Tavernari, or I'm really close friends with Jan Jorgensen, or if I was a Jimmer Fredette, and I was not allowed to be paid anything, and I was generating that kind of revenue and ticket sales, and people were wearing my jersey and I had nothing to show for it, but then these kids do, I would not have such a good mindset like you guys all seem to have. So it was a blessing for me that I was a walk-on, and I would be a walk-on now, where you don't get anything. You know what I mean?
I will say one thing, Sean. There was one thing that I am bitter about, and I am jealous about, and I've been open about this. I fight weight problems. I have weight issues. I've gained over 100 pounds since I've retired from basketball. And the one thing, Sean, more than anything, that really hurts my heart and it makes me sad, and I have bitter towards the current situation, is I barely had any money to eat, right? I mean, I had to go to McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's most of my meals because I just didn't have the money for it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I got a $900 check every month, and, $400 went to rent, and then, another $150 went on gas for me to drive around. I had a phone bill of about $50-$75. And so, I was left with about $400 a month, $300 a month for me to be able to eat. And during season, which is when I was always in my best shape, BYU, like every other college, supplemented that because we had team meals and so on. On the off season, Sean, it was difficult. It was tough. And so that is the one thing that I hold it, that I think the way that colleges are supporting athletes now with, meals and all of that type of stuff, I think it's great. And so, and with the money stuff, Sean, once we go on to the next part of the plan, we don't take anything with us. And honestly, Sean, relationships like I have with you, with the media, where I was able to have a 4-year career there, which nowadays, as you know, people just people just don't stay at a place for that long. To me, those mean more than having a couple of $1 million in my account, which would be fantastic. But you know me well enough to know that I mean when I say that. And I think there are pros and cons with both aspects of how it was and how it is today.
Yeah, I agree. And man, I would play just for the food now. You're right. They get taken care of from a meals perspective. But the genie will never go back in the bottle. We'll keep talking about it with JT, Jonathan Tavernari. I always appreciate your time. Thank you, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate you, and looking forward to a great battle on Saturday. It will be a fun one to have it on our neck of the woods this time.
Running Utes and BYU Cougs Saturday at the Marriott Center. That is a hostile environment under the best circumstances. It will be so again on Saturday for Alex Jensen and crew. The Daily Dump from Valley Plumbing is coming up next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Plumbing, drain cleaning, and now HVAC needs. The truck with the duck, Valley Plumbing, can handle it all for you. The Daily Dump brought to you by Valley Plumbing. Indiana quarterback named Mendoza is entering the transfer portal. You heard about it in James' SportsCenter break here. Alberto Mendoza is in the transfer portal. You saw him last night on the postgame celebration quite a bit. Fernando's walking around. Everyone's interviewing him, stopping him, taking pictures with him, police escorting him. He's wearing number 15. And then a guy who looks a lot like him wearing number 16 is following close behind or walking a little bit in head. That's his brother. That's Alberto Mendoza. So he'll be in the transfer portal. And if the storybook season / years continue for the Mendoza family, he's going to end up maybe at Miami.
Heisman Trophy, the next Heisman Trophy winner at Miami. Watch Mario Cristobal be like, I'm not making this mistake twice, all right?
It's just like, sorry, Mendoza family. I apologize. Mea culpa. We're going to have this Darian Mensah guy come in. We're going to pay him $10 million from Duke. And then we're going to have you be his backup. And you can step in due to an injury and lead us to a national championship or something.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so this would be really, really hard to do if you're in a situation where your brother is now a legend at that school forever. Fernando Mendoza is the best, most decorated, most significant player in the history of Indiana football. Undoubtedly. National champion, Heisman Trophy winner. If you're the younger brother, you're like, man, I really love that I got a national championship here. It's been really cool to be part of this. I have to leave, though. Even if they didn't bring in Hoover to be the heir apparent at the quarterback position, even if the coaching staff wasn't effectively telling you, like, you're not going to be our starter next year, to live in the shadow of your brother who has just done that at Indiana would be a really, really tough thing. But it'd also be so hard to walk away from that special season. He's doing it. We'll see where he ends up.
Yeah,
By the way, transfer portal, when the transfer portal is closed, what are you talking about? Remember, Miami players and Indiana players, they get an extra 5 days.
They get till Saturday is when it closes. So, yeah. And I would think that if I were Alberto, I'd want to have a chance to compete for the starting job. Hey, my brother's gone now. I understand why he got the nod over me. Like, obviously that's understandable. He ends up winning the Heisman Trophy. He's awesome. But you do make a good point. That's if you're not very good or you are good but you're not up to your brother's standard, that's probably that the weight of those expectations is probably a lot. Probably too much to stick around. And like you said, his decision was kind of made for him when they went after Hoover and brought Hoover in from TCU via the portal. So I do hope that he gets a shot. It would be fun to see him start at a somewhat major college football program and see if he does any good. We'll see if there's something in the bloodlines there.
We talked about this with Gordy Chiesa, torn ACL for Jimmy Butler. They kept showing the replay over and over on the screen in front of me here just a second ago. Always brutal to see something like that. Season-ending injury for a player who seems like he's kind of found a better home for himself after being embattled at times earlier in his career and maybe having some team chemistry and player chemistry and coaches chemistry issues. Tough thing for the Golden State Warriors and for Jimmy Butler. He's not getting younger, and I know that the surgeries are a lot better and rehab's a lot better and the drugs are a lot better than they ever were, but it's tough to think that he'll come back and be the same kind of player that he was before this. So that stinks. Not as much as this next story coming out of the Bay Area, though. Robert Saleh, who left the San Francisco 49ers, 4 years ago to be the Jets head coach, came back to be the defensive coordinator this past season, was a huge part of them overachieving after losing his two best individual players for significant time, season-ending injuries for Nick Bosa and for Fred Warner, Robert Saleh still put together a really solid campaign for that 49ers defense. And it was so impressive that now he's going to be the Tennessee Titans head coach. You like seeing good things happen for people when they have success. This is a tough one. Because if you're Robert Saleh, you obviously want this gig. You obviously want to be a head coach. The Tennessee Titans are still, I think, pretty far away from having a top-flight defense in the National Football League. I think they're pretty far away from being a playoff team, potentially. And so you're leaving a team that is just, well, maybe it's the right time, has been propping the Super Bowl window open with, like, popsicle sticks and Q-tips and toilet paper rolls. Just trying, can we extend this a little bit more? And unfortunately now it looks like it's kind of slamming closed. And I think that him leaving is another thing that makes it slam closed even more. So hate to see you go. Robert Saleh, good job this past season as the defensive coordinator once again for the San Francisco 49ers. Good luck in Tennessee. And I am partial, by the way, to Nashville. I think that Nashville is one of those places that already is, but can be even more of a spectacular sports town. It's a really cool city. I recommend to everyone go visit if you have an opportunity to do so. It's a place where the housing is still somewhat affordable. A lot more expensive than it was pre-COVID, but still somewhat affordable. They've got an NHL franchise. They've got an NFL franchise. They're doing the new stadium thing for the Titans. It sounds like they're probably going to get a Major League Baseball franchise.
Around the time that Salt Lake will get a franchise, they're probably going to get one in Nashville too.
It seems like that will be sort of the East Coast counterpart or east of the Mississippi counterpart to an expansion out west that we obviously hope is going to be here in Salt Lake City. Portland people think that they still have a chance. You don't, Portland.
I mean, Dale Murphy even – you have so low a chance that your celebrity baseball endorser switched to our side. So I don't know about that.
You smelly hippies, go shave your armpits and maybe you'll have a chance. All right, Portland.
We're going to have to rub that into Jeff Schwartz in a little bit, even though he's not a Portland guy, but just his association with the state of Oregon.
It's very funny because Jeff is so not Portland. Like,
do you feel like Charlotte is where he's now put down roots it fits his vibe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Charlotte's dope. I really like.
Not been to Charlotte.
Is he listening right now? Oh, he just texted me. As we were saying Jeff Schwartz's name, he texted me.
That's creepy.
He said he needs to be off when he joins us at 1:00. He needs to be off by 1:25.
Okay.
So I just responded, too bad.
Too bad.
Too bad.
We have to keep the bit up where we get you late. Where you
get to him late and then keep him late.
Him late.
I'm an unprofessional radio host. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
All right.
But
so Robert Saleh, to get back to Tennessee, Robert Saleh leaving San Francisco, which is at one point San Francisco was America's greatest city. I don't know that that's true anymore because of how screwed up the whole political system is there and how they've let a lot of homelessness and drug abuse and things like that become normalized in the city proper. But the Bay Area is about as good as it gets in America. So to leave that, you better be giving me a cool spot. I wouldn't do it for the Jets. I mean, probably to be a head coach I would. But New York, no. Nashville? All right, Robert Saleh, I get it. Nashville's cool.
I'm not criticizing Robert Saleh for taking this job. But I'm kind of criticizing the Titans. Like, there was no, and listen, maybe the Jets, maybe it's just the stink of that franchise. It's just not going to work for anybody. But he just showed us nothing to say, yeah, this guy's the guy you want as a head coach.
Maybe Robert Saleh is playing chess where everyone else is playing checkers. Maybe he was like, look, I don't know what it's like to be a head coach, so I'm going to take this Jets job because even if I fail, they don't blame me. They will blame the organization. That's how bad the Jets are, to where you can be bad at the job, and it's not your fault in the minds of fans, insiders, other franchises even. So maybe it's the perfect first-time head coach job to be with the Jets because people are just like, well, yeah, but he was with the Jets. Look how bad they've screwed up every player, and so they screw up every coach too. It's not his fault that they stink. It's the organization's fault that they stunk while he was the head coach. Maybe that's like the actual strategic plan for these guys.
And listen, I got nothing against Saleh. I hope he proves me wrong. I just don't. I don't know if I like this hire for the Titans. I don't know if I were running a team, I'd want to hire that guy. But I hope he proves me wrong because Titans have shown they can be a much better franchise than the Jets. Have a lot more success, especially recently. And Cam Ward is a really good player, and in theory, he was going to have that in his tenure with the Jets when they brought in Aaron Rodgers. That just didn't work out. Cam Ward maybe having that kind of talent at quarterback is one of the big differences for Robert Saleh in his success this time around. I don't like the retread of guys that were not very good at all before, And so I'm not sure. That's why I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this hire, but maybe he proves me wrong.
I don't know what Cody Barton's contract status is with Tennessee, but I think he's still with Tennessee. So Robert Saleh will be coaching former Ute linebacker Cody Barton. There's your local connection, if you cared about that.
Got to always bring in the local connection. Absolutely.
A quick update on a fact I gave earlier, James.
All right.
I feel bad about this. When we give non-sports facts, I'm wrong about sports facts all the time, so I don't feel a need to correct myself on those. When we're giving geography facts or cultural facts, I want to make sure we get those right.
It's about the deserts.
It is.
Okay.
So the Atacama Desert is often referred to and generally considered to be the driest place on Earth. Some areas of the Atacama Desert have had no precipitation for centuries. However, I did say it was the driest place on Earth. But there are places called the dry valleys in Antarctica where apparently there's been no rain for nearly 2 million years.
Okay.
Which, how do you know? Okay, science?
Yeah, you're
Scientists?
making that up.
How do you know there's been no rain for 2 million years? How do you know?
And how can that even be? It's covered in ice. Of course there's been rain or
this
snow.
Ice right here, this ice on top here, it's not been touched for 2 million years by even one drop of. How do you know that? Are we carbon dating ice now? Is that a thing we can do? 877-353-0700. Can we tell how old ice on the surface of Antarctica is? Like the very top layer? In any case.
That's crazy. 2,000 years, allegedly. There's no precipitation in some parts of Antarctica. But when you said no rain for centuries is it Atacama?
Yes.
Is that how you say that? The Atacama Desert in South America? I was like, yeah, that has to be the driest place on Earth. 2,000 years?
You ask, why is it so dry? Well, because the Andes Mountains block the moisture from the Amazon, and then there's something called the Humboldt Current, which is cold. It prevents clouds from forming. So, boom, no rain. They have set up weather stations in the Atacama Desert that have not, since being set up, that have not registered any precipitation at all. No rain. That's pretty wild. The McMurdo Dry Valley, though, in Antarctica, no rain for almost 2 million years.
2 million.
They have something called katabatic winds that pull moisture away. There's snow-free valleys, and they have saline lakes. So science studies those. Huh.
So that they have like...
You know what? I got to go down here, and I got to check this out. I'm going to take a trip to Antarctica at some point in my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to this McMurdo Dry Valley and see what the forecast is like.
You're gonna buy all kinds of amateur weather equipment just to debunk.
Correct.
Well, my meter is showing that it got rain yesterday.
This meter,
Actually.
this weather thing that I got off of Amazon for $18 says that this is fresh rain that we got here at the McMurdo Dry Valley.
It's actually rained an hour ago. You said million years? I thought you said millennia.
2 million years.
My goodness. The wrong mill, happens sometimes.
It's really insane.
So, Atacama, those are the two driest places in the world, probably?
Yeah, 2 driest places in the world.
Antarctica. Hey, did you know this? Antarctica, technically a desert.
It is. The Atacama Desert has come to Utah for this winter with no precipitation, but hopefully not for long. I think actually we're supposed to get some like tomorrow. Is that right?
Take that, Atacama Desert.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No. There's no precipitation in the forecast.
Yikes.
Sorry, guys. I lied about that. All right. A way too early 2026 top 25 is out for college football. Where does Indiana, the national champion, sit? Where's Utah? I'll tell you next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Way too early, top 25 here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Way too early, top 25 for the 2026 college football season. Last night, crowned a champion in Indiana. Jeff Schwartz is going to join us in about 3 minutes to discuss. Number one, according to ESPN for next year, is Indiana. They lose Mendoza. They lose Elijah Surratt. They lose Pat Coogan, the center. They lose Roman Hemby, Stephen Daly, their All-American linebacker, Aiden Fisher, the first All-American linebacker they've ever had, and their strong safety, Lewis Moore. But they've done great work in the transfer portal. They're bringing in Josh Hoover. We already talked about that. They like the Turbo Richard guy out of Boston College. He'll be playing running back next year. And they still have Kurt Signetti, so Indiana, number one in the way too early top 25 for next season. Texas 2, Notre Dame 3, Georgia 4, Oregon 5, according to ESPN.
Wait, where are the Buckeyes?
Number 6, your Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 7, the highest-ranked Big 12 team, Texas Tech, who obviously got Brendan Sorsby to replace the departing Baron Morton. We think that's an upgrade. I think the bigger question is, what are you going to do with the defensive line? You have to rebuild your defensive line that was so good for you this year. Jacob Rodriguez is leaving, but number 7 for Texas Tech, the runner-up from 2025, the Miami Hurricanes, are the number 8 team in 2026, according to ESPN. And remember, these preseason polls are always very, very accurate by the end of the year. So BYU's comes in at number 11. They're the second highest-ranked Big 12 team after they did not lose much in the transfer portal or to graduation. And then TCU at number 20, interestingly enough, the next Big 12 team to make an appearance. Arizona State at number 23, even after losing Sam Leavitt. And number 25, University of Utah. Key starters gone. You know who all these people are. Fano, Lomu, Dallin Bentley, Smith Snowden, J.J. Buchanan, Jonah Leah, John Henry Daly, Ryan Davis, Lander Barton, Logan Fano. All gone. But you got Dev back. You got Bird back. You've got a new outlook on an offense that will once again retool, reshift under Kevin McGiven. You're bringing in a better wide receiving core than you had last year. That's I don't know about any of the other position groups, but you know that your wide receiving core is actually on paper more productive than what you were bringing back last year. You had like 100 yards of total offense in your wide receiving core last year. That's a bad number. And you still ended up with a 10-win season. So ESPN says Utah will be the number 25 team in the country according to their way too early top 25 rankings.
The other thing, I think, reason for optimism offensively, OC, yes, you don't have Jason Beck anymore. That's obviously, you hope Kevin McGiven, and there's signs that he'll also be a really good offensive coordinator. But losing maybe the best offensive coordinator that Utah's had in a little while here, certainly since the Pac-12 championship years, is a big deal. But other than J.J. Buchanan and Celeste Moa was a guy that was going to probably play both ways, probably play some wide receiver, some cornerback.
Hopefully not, because honestly, that's hasn't been a good experiment for Utah. I don't want that to be a thing Morgan Scalley does too much of.
That was the thought as a possibility, though. They were gonna, maybe he would have been a receiver, maybe he would have been a corner, maybe he would have played some of both. But you lose those two guys. They didn't, and then you lose some guys to graduation. They didn't lose anyone else on the offensive side through the transfer portal, if I'm not mistaken, OC. If Daniel Bray was a guy we all circled as like, that's a big guy to keep, they're keeping him. Wayshawn Parker, they're keeping him. The quarterback's obviously a huge deal. They're keeping him. So I feel like quietly that's a big win for Morgan Scalley, the new offense coordinator, Kevin McGiven, and the rest of the offensive staff, for them to, yes, you lost a good amount of key players in the transfer portal, but you kept basically all of your top offensive players besides J.J. Buchanan. I think that's a win.
Well, we hope that's how it works out. That's your way too early top 25. Take a quick one here. Hour number 3 starts with Jeff Schwartz recapping the national championship and looking ahead to conference championship weekend in the NFL. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon Duck, longtime NFL veteran, college football and NFL expert. Jeff Schwartz, hello.
Can we now admit the Michael Irvin thing was a little creepy? Like, are we allowed to be done with? Are we allowed to admit that now that the game's over last night?
What creepy thing?
Like, just the Michael Irvin Miami thing. Like, why is he on the sidelines pep talking the guys during the game? Like, you're not a coach, buddy. Like, what are we? The belt to taking the belt off and beating the opponent's shirt after the game. It's a little odd.
I've never met Michael Irvin. He seems like an absolute wild card to me, of the highest order. Like, he would be the most unpredictable person you could be around.
Yeah, that I don't think I'd mesh with that personality.
I think that's probably a safe bet. Knowing what I know about you, I think that you might have a hard time.
The funny part is my wife and Michael Irvin would probably be best friends.
Opposites attract, and that's why you ended up with the female version of that as your wife.
The other day, she just decided like we're just getting rid of all the rugs in the house that we can.
You're just getting rid of all your rugs?
She just moved all the furniture and took them all out.
Why? She's anti-rug now, or she's reloading?
She just wanted to order new ones.
Oh, got it.
It's just an insane person.
Yes, I know what that's like. Different kind of insane, but
we married the same person.
Yes, incredible. All right, so they did it. Indiana caps off one of the most impressive seasons in the history of college football. Is it the most? Is it better than the Joe Burrow LSU team?
No, they're not the best team to win ever championship. It's the most improbable championship in the history of the sport, though. Like
sure.
those are two different things, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're not the same thing. They're not better than the 2019 LSU team. I mean, I think that it's fair to say they're one of the best teams ever. What they did is the most improbable thing we may ever see in the history of the sport. I don't think there's another Indiana. It's even hard to put into words what this was. I mean, it's just so unprecedented. We have had a formula to win in this sport for 100 years. You have more pro players than I do, right? That's what wins in the end. Yeah. And Indiana doesn't. Cignetti said it yesterday. They don't have a bunch of pro guys. It's not supposed to happen this way, and it did. In a resounding way. They didn't trail the entire college football playoff. It's remarkable what they did, and they won every big moment. Although it was interesting, like near the end of that game, they did sort of start to have some of those faltering moments. Right, the offensive lineman jumped off sides on 2nd and 1 that would have won them the game. And of course, that shields Mario Cristobal from the mistake he made. He should have jumped off sides himself and gotten the first down. That would have extended the game a little bit longer. He didn't do that, but the false start obviously helped. And I mean, there were a little bit of cracks in the perfectness of Indiana. They dropped one pass in this game. Other than that, they won every high leverage situation. There was, post game win expectancy. I like to use it, just a tool, right, to look at. It had Indiana 14%.
Whoa.
Probably honestly, probably a little too low. But the fact is, like, Miami's success rate was better than Indiana. Miami's offense second half was great. It just, they blocked a punt. They missed, Indiana did, and Miami missed a field goal. Like these little moments that Indiana won 4th down. Those little moments make the difference, and that's what the difference in this game was.
So you already pointed out astutely that the formula has been like, we have more talent than you, we have more pro guys than you, we're going to win. If Indiana is not the case this year, do they need to be moving forward, or is like Curt Cignetti enough of a trump card? Is this group of guys that had so much experience, and a lot was made about their age and how many of them, even in a transfer portal era, have played for Curt Cignetti or played together for a long time, is Indiana going to be able to do it moving forward differently than teams have for years? Or by winning a national championship, do they now put themselves in the same category as Ohio State and Michigan and Miami and Oklahoma and whoever else, so that they can get those 4- and 5-star guys that they didn't need to win this one, but now they can get them?
I think this level of success they had this year is pretty tough to do it again in this way. So a couple of things I think all played a role in this. First is that Cignetti has worked with these coordinators for like 15 years, like at least as OC, right? They've been together for many, many years. So there's a comfort level and knowledge and system in what they do there that might be different. When I would imagine their OC will be the head coach job next season, right? Or in 2 years from now. Okay, so that's one thing, right? This staff has been together for a long time. Hard to do in college football, right? Because most of the times your coordinators leave, but as he's moved up in ranks, his coordinators have stayed with him, so it's really awesome. 2 is the JMU thing. So, look, the guys he brought with him from JMU are all superstars. That you probably don't hit a home run rate in the portal like that moving forward from a group of 5 school, right? Like that just Cignetti just knew the guys he had on the roster. Now you could argue, of course, that you're bringing in more talented players on the whole. And I agree with that, obviously, right? But the fact is, like these JMU guys, he just hit it right. He gets the perfect quarterback. He gets a season where they lost 1 fumble in the first quarter of the game, game 1, I should say, and didn't lose a fumble the rest of the season.
Old Dominion's the only team that recovered a fumble against Indiana in a whole year.
So I think all these things sort of like came together at once, and I don't think they can do it again. I don't. Now they can do it again in a different form. Of course they can. Mendoza yesterday, how many perfect back shoulder fades did he throw, Sean? Is Josh Hoover their new? Is he doing the same? Is it going to be exactly the same? He's going to throw perfect passes every single time. Like you know what I mean? Like those are questions that I just naturally have. They got really everything to go their way this year. There's nothing wrong with it. They earned it. They earned the luck that they got. But every 4th down they needed this year, they got it, right? Every stop they needed, they got it. And so that's why I think it's tough to sustain. That's why I give Georgia and Alabama and Clemson, like all these teams that have won multiple championships, like it's just really, really hard to do this again. That's why the blue chip ratio is so important, I think, because it is repeatable if you have the really good players to do that. And I think Indiana is getting those players now, right? And then your margin of error is a little bit less because you have just better players in general. So I don't think this is repeatable. They can certainly win again with better football players, but the caliber of players they have now, I don't think they can do this again without enough pro guys.
Is the Big Ten now the best conference in college football? Can we stop with the SEC conversation of, well, it just means more? 3 in a row for the Big Ten. You look at the end of the season rankings. Yeah. The top teams are Big Ten teams. The money seems to be equal, just as impressive. The talent distribution, all those things. Has the SEC lost its tight grip on supremacy in college football?
Yes. Can I tell you my theory why? And SEC fans, some of my life don't like my theory, but I think my theory is pretty good. So the Big Ten is a conference that has tended to pride itself on doing things the right way, right? And of course, there's been scandals, but that's like, they do things the right way, right? We do it with honor and integrity and all those things, right? All those catchphrases. And I think they truly do believe that, right? They really believe that. And while I'm sure that some players were getting paid, I think a lot of the Big Ten schools before NIL were just abstaining from that. It wasn't allowed, right? It wasn't. I'm not going to get caught in a recruiting scandal. It just wasn't allowed. And they've always had money in the boosters, but they've been unwilling to spend the money because it wasn't allowed. As soon as it became legal, guess who showed up? All the rich boosters at all these schools. I mean, Indiana has the most alumni in the country. And then if you look at the top other schools, it's Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, it's all these Midwestern schools. They got a ton of money. And I think this is a big reason. I think that when it became legal, the boosters of the Big Ten decided, I want to hop in. Now, look, for a lot of these guys, it's just fun money, right? Like Mark Cuban spending $5 million. He won a championship, of course, but he doesn't notice that money's gone.
No.
So but I think that until it became legal, boosters in the Big Ten didn't rush to do this. Where the SEC, very famously, they have paid a lot of players over the years.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing now. Where because it's legal, you're just getting a lot of imagine Indiana has 800,000 living alumni. Now, of course, not everyone's but imagine my daughter's home. Sorry, imagine
we're dog friendly.
Imagine I don't know a fraction of those people donating $20 a piece. You just got like a bigger group of people to donate money now. And now that they won, the money feels like it's worth donating. Right? Now that they won, maybe other schools are like, we got to spend a little bit more to catch up. So I think the Big Ten, with NIL, with the portal, with winning the last 3 championships, they've absolutely positioned themselves as the best in the sport.
I didn't know it would happen for a place like Indiana. You and I were doing radio. I did know it would happen for BYU. Once it was allowed, that a team like BYU would have boosters that wanted to pay for it. And now Indiana and maybe, I don't know, Wisconsin, Purdue, whoever else gets on board with this, it certainly can change the landscape of college football, and I think it has in terms of the Big Ten elevating itself above the SEC. And the SEC is real mad about it right now, which
I love it so much.
I love
Feinbaum is so angry.
And, even Nick Saban is just like, why would anyone ever want to leave the South only to get paid? It's like, dude, you paid players.
Did the Saban thing is weird. Did him and Cignetti have a falling out? Like, what's the thing here? Because he seems to not like him very much.
I think what happened is that Curt Cignetti left his staff to take a job that was inferior to the job he had on Saban's staff, and Saban knew that, but he wanted to be in charge. He took some podunk crap like NAIA job.
Yeah, IUPU, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and I think that was insulting to Nick Saban because he's like, you don't have to do this. You can stay on staff with me, and then your next, stay long enough, your next job will be Georgia. Your next job will be at least like a place, maybe Virginia. And I think that Curt Cignetti was just like, no, I've learned what I need to learn. I'm gone. I think he left earlier than Nick Saban thought he was ready to leave. And, he's not a guy who's used to being defied, which is probably enough to add a little tension to that relationship.
Yeah, it's a good point. I just think it's odd. Like, he picked Miami last night. I just thought he just seems to not like him. I find it so odd, and maybe that's the reason why there's a little bit of tension there that he left. So, very very fascinating.
Yeah, super interesting stuff. What happens to Miami now?
Well, they got to find a way to get the Mensa kid, right? I mean, they're suing. Duke is now suing, so
that was just announced. Duke is suing Darian Mensah to try to keep him from entering the transfer portal.
I think both of those pass rushers are gone, right? Bain and Messidor.
Yes.
So you got to find new ones because they were they're bad men last night, man. They're making life really tough in Mendoza. Mensa's better than Beck, so that'll be an improvement for them there. But I mean, it's about just finding the next replacement for guys. It's hard. Mario Cristobal, I think, said this yesterday. He goes, everyone says, you'll just get back, and he's like, no. It's hard to just get back. There's no guarantee that we'll be back next year, but they play in a conference that sort of allows them, I think, an opportunity to get some, an easier path to get there. But they have to go and do it.
All right, switching gears with Jeff Schwartz here to the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. The Broncos are the de facto home team here for Salt Lake City, and everyone's really pumped. There's a lot of Utes on that roster. I know you like Bo Nix, and somehow he broke his ankle kneeling the ball down.
Yeah, well, before that, but sure, yeah, it sucks.
That's terrible. So now they've got to try to do it with Jarrett Stidham. Is it really close to possible?
Yes. Against the New England team, absolutely. Yes, I think it is. I'm gonna actually pick Denver to win by the end of the week. So a couple things I think play a role here. Sean Payton has had actually a lot of success with backup quarterbacks in New Orleans. Remember, Teddy Bridgewater won a lot of games for him. Now, Jared Sims not Teddy Bridgewater, so it's not that's not really apples to apples. But we know that he can design a game plan that works. Like we know he's a good offense coordinator. Like we know that, right? So that's a positive right there. If Dobbins comes back, you got to feel much better about their chances. Now he's got to come back healthy because I think the weakness in the offense is their running backs, not their run game. They have good offensive linemen. They just don't have good running backs. And Harvey's young and small, and so is McLaughlin. He fumbled that ball early in that game. Like there's room for improvement at running back. But Dobbins comes back, you feel great about it. And then defensively, you have a good defense. And look, Drake May it's his first road playoff game, Sean. It's a big deal on the road. Their offense has not been very crisp so far in the postseason. So yeah, they can absolutely win this game.
Who else is going to win?
So the Rams. It's one of those things where if they play their best game, they're going to win, but they haven't played their best game in maybe all season. Right? They have the opportunity. If they play their best game, they beat Seattle's best. But they just often this year haven't done that. So I I think Seattle wins until and I've been on the Rams like for a long time this year. I gotta see them play their best game, man. They haven't done it yet.
Sam Darnold is going to be in the Super Bowl. What will it say about the NFL? What will it say about all the teams that Sam Darnold played for in the past if he can win a Super Bowl in Seattle?
I mean, I think like same as Indiana. There's just no long-lasting takeaway other than this was his year to do it.
Huh.
Like what's the takeaway?
I don't know if there is one. Like we saw Sam Darnold's first real game here in Salt Lake City when he was a freshman at USC, and he was amazing. USC ended up losing that game, but it wasn't his fault as a true freshman. He's an excellent player, but then you see this happen where guys transition to the NFL and it just doesn't fit, doesn't work, doesn't fit, doesn't work. And now twice Seattle has been the place where guys have a career resurgence, and Sam Darnold is taking it even further than Geno Smith did.
Yeah, I don't think there's any like Minnesota wasn't winning a championship with Sam Darnold. They tried last year and he failed twice in those games. So I don't think that it will change fundamentally like how teams pick up quarterbacks. I think that obviously they might regret getting rid of him, the Vikings will, but no one's going to like, oh, let me get Malik Willis. I mean, who's the next Sam Darnold? There's no next Sam Darnold.
Is? I don't know if there is one.
There's to me, there's no next Sam Darnold. So, just like there's no next Indiana. There's just no next Indiana. There's just not going to happen. Now, maybe someone wins out of nowhere. That's certainly fair to say, but there's just no next Indiana. It's just not going to happen.
All right, I know you're up against it here. We got to let you go in just a second. But is Robert Saleh a good hire for the Tennessee Titans?
I think I don't know. I think it's fine.
I love him as a defensive coordinator. James made the point earlier that we didn't really like the Jets are a crap organization, so I don't know if anyone's going to succeed there. But
correct.
I don't think he showed us anything in New York where it's like, somebody else will be great with him.
Well, look, you give him Cam Ward. There was talk about Brian Daboll being his OC. He runs the defense. Like it's not the worst idea. I think it's fair to say that the Jets don't give everyone an opportunity to win, so we give them a chance elsewhere.
Jeff Hafley, do you have any thoughts on him?
It doesn't feel like a great hire, but I mean it's the opposite of Mike McDaniel, right? You got a defensive-minded coach, so that typically is what happens. You get the opposite of the coach you just had.
Is John Harbaugh, now that it's official, is he going to win big in New York?
I gotta see who his OC is first. I think it's going to be Todd Monken. I like that a lot. I think what Harbaugh does is he gives them a level of stability at that position they haven't had in just years and years and years. They're one of the worst franchises in the last 5 years. And he gives them stability where at the baseline you're going to have a team that is well prepared. Well, there was reports that the Giants are just like so far behind analytically, and that Harbaugh, when he got there, part of the holdup and why he wasn't signed was that they had to revamp the analytics department. Like all this stuff where the Giants are just not quite the same as other organizations. They're sort of slow to move in those categories. So Harbaugh just adding that will be a difference in my mind. I don't know if he's going to win a Super Bowl Jackson. I don't know, but they just need a level of professionalism at that position. They just haven't had in years.
All right, overtime, but only by 30 seconds. So I'll let you go, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have work to do. It's so dumb.
That sounds lame.
I know. All right, bye, buddy. Talk to you later.
Thanks. That's Jeff Schwartz. He's been an expert for us on college football and the NFL all season long. And we've got at least another week or two of that because you got conference championship weekend. You should go watch those games at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. And then you've got the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, which I'm going to have to watch on an airplane, which will be an interesting experiment for me. I've never had to do that before. But, yeah. The NFL season coming to a close. The college football world crowned its champion last night with Indiana, and we We've talked about what an incredible story this is. We did not really spend any time, and we should have, on the fourth down call, 4th and 5, Indiana going in to score, and they send out the field goal unit. Then Curt Cignetti calls a timeout, and he's just like, all right, let me think of something else. And they run a QB draw that after the game we were told was something they've run before but blocked differently this time, and they were hoping that Miami would come out in the defensive coverage that they were looking for. Now, Fernando Mendoza, he also sat down after the game, and he said, well, we're looking for them to run this particular zone coverage, and on one half of the field they're running zone, on one half they're running man. He has the option to throw the ball, and he said, I'm just going to call my own number. And he got completely turned around. He had to run somebody over, got completely turned around like he's actually facing the wrong way, plants his hand in the ground, spins again, leaps into the end zone. It's an iconic image. They're going to build a statue to something for this national championship year. That's a way better statue than the stupid Philadelphia Eagles one of them calling the play.
Them talking to each other.
To each other. You want to run Philly, Philly? That's the dumbest statue, by the way, in all of sports. I hate that statue exists. Of all the things that you could have built a commemorative bronze to, you choose the moment where they were like, hey, should we try this thing?
Should we try this thing that has definitely been done before by all the other teams in the NFL, but we're acting like it's the first time it's ever been done? Yeah.
Very obnoxious. But, like, if you're
Philly.
If you're going to build the statue for Indiana, that's like Fernando Mendoza
in the end zone,
leaping, stretching out as somebody drills him directly in the spine, but he breaks the plane and he gets the touchdown on 4th and 5. And you were talking about this during the break. Curt Cignetti, he doesn't show emotion. He raised his hands in celebration. There's plenty of football left to play, and that outcome was still in doubt, but he was vindicated. He had trotted the field goal unit out there, and then he changed his mind, and who knows what the argument or the discussion is like on the headsets, and he gets that play call in, he gets that touchdown in, and it's like, yep, we did the right thing there, and that was the biggest moment of the game.
They were talking about Herbie and Fowler, and it might have been, I think it's Molly McGrath and Holly Rowe. They might have chimed in, too, at this point, but they were talking about on the broadcast, the television broadcast, how I think after the blocked punt touchdown, which is one of the most exciting, a blocked punt touchdown is always one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting play in a football game, and how everyone on the sideline around him's jumping up and down because that's awesome, and he's just stoic, like, got more work to do, guys. And they were talking about he doesn't celebrate touchdowns, right? But then I thought it was very telling that he celebrated that touchdown later. Also, I think I told you this off air too, OC. It's very reminiscent of the Elway helicopter touchdown in the first Broncos Super Bowl win over the Packers, where it's just similar situation, I think later in the game for Elway and the Broncos. But similar situation, we got to have this to win the championship kind of thing. And we don't have any more games after this, so I don't care what happens to my body kind of mentality. And reaching into the end zone in the harm's way, getting clobbered by the defender, but ultimately getting the touchdown. Other than Elway getting spun around and Mendoza not, it looked like basically the same play.
Beautiful play call, beautiful decision to put it in the hands of your Heisman Trophy quarterback and say, make the right play here. If you get the look you're looking for, you could throw that ball. Otherwise, it's a draw. He's not the best athlete. He's not the most nimble, but he has great sense of the spacing on a defense. He's got a great sense of how to navigate through a little bit of traffic. And like he could have, remember, he already had the first down. So when he got hit, they piled up on him or whatever. He could have just gone down. Like, okay, now it's 1st and goal, and you got another set of downs, and we're probably going to punch it in at some point. But he gets turned around, so he's facing the wrong way. He hand plants in the dirt, that old running back drill that you see people during warm-ups do, where you go tripod and you put your hand down. He does that and then spins and leaps. And it was just gorgeous, man. And that is the photo That is the moment. That is the thing that is going to be the enduring image of Indiana's first ever college football national championship. Another thing we haven't addressed. So Holly Rowe, who's the best in the business, Utah's very own. We love Holly Rowe. Holly Rowe was on the sideline report. She was on the field after, right? She was doing all the stuff that she does. And a photo that she took, it kind of like this tweet, it went viral because Mark Fletcher Jr., the Miami running back, who had a great game, incredible game, couple of touchdowns, over 100 yards. Mark Fletcher Jr., apparently, according to Holly Rowe's tweet, he waited like a long time on the field to congratulate Fernando Mendoza. And she was like, wow, what a classy young man. This is amazing. But also, Mark Fletcher was throwing punches at Indiana people as this game was coming to a close. As like the celebration for Indiana was happening. There was one Miami player that apparently didn't like what was said or did not like the fact that his team had lost the national championship, and he was actually trying to punch people. I think it was a reserve D lineman for Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Probably said something he shouldn't have said. Who knows? But Fletcher threw punches. And it was funny because you see this guy who's now ready to celebrate a national championship. He, instead of fighting back, he's like pointing to the Miami coaches and other players that are near Fletcher like, hey, get your guy. Get him away from me. Because he didn't want the smoke. But a little juxtaposition of, man, the emotion of disappointment, anger, etc., losing a game, but then obviously realizing, getting the moment of perspective of like, I got to congratulate what Fernando Mendoza did. Same person, same post game. Holly Rowe saw one thing, the positive thing. She obviously didn't see the negative thing.
This is so funny. What a great guy. Love this kid. Hey, you know what? In one aspect, she was totally accurate about how Fletcher was post game.
Here's the thing.
Missed the other aspect of it.
I don't know what was said. I don't know. It's always dumb to fight when you're wearing football pads. It's not a good look to be fighting when you're on the losing end of a national championship. It's like when the confetti drops, you just got to let whatever happens go, probably. But I cannot even begin to imagine the disappointment, the difficulty of getting that close, of being, I mean, you have the ball. You have an opportunity to drive down and win. And instead, Carson Beck throws an interception. He misreads the coverage. He throws an interception, and your season is over. He's coming back to Miami. Mark Fletcher Jr. is going to be back at Miami next year, barring any major surprises. But that has to be a brutally disappointing moment. No excuse to start throwing punches and fighting people, but at least it seems like he came back down to earth and, you know.
The Indiana player, by the way, like goads him and then backs away.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, come at me. And then as he's like, okay, I'm coming at you, he's backing.
Just kidding. Please don't. Don't. I'm going to get in trouble.
It's like, okay, man.
As long as we're talking about this national championship game, you got an incredible story from a former Heisman Trophy winner about Fernando Mendoza over Heisman weekend. You have to hear this little soundbite. We'll play it for you next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Five Finger Death Punch is coming to Utah. So are the PBR Professional Bull Riders. We'll have tickets to both events all week at Topical Trivia. Coming up shortly here, I'll have a trivia question for you. If you'd like to purchase tickets to either event, details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. All right. Fernando Mendoza is a legend in college football. He is seemingly impossible to deter. He has this sunny disposition. The family story is absolutely incredible. The movie, by the way, who are we casting to play Fernando Mendoza? My number one vote is if there's a way you can make Timothée Chalamet look like he's a normal-sized human, make him tall, then he'd be good. But you probably got to go with the guy from Stranger Things.
Oh, Joe Keery.
Joe Keery. Steve, right, from Stranger Things?
Steve the Hair Harrington, of course.
Give him a more normal haircut and let him play Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
I wonder if he could throw a ball. A lot of actors, when you have them play anything athletic, you could tell they're theater kids. You're just like, oh, geez. He looks so bad.
I mean, he played jock high school guy in Stranger Things.
Yeah, conspicuously absent from that, any actual athletic activity.
There was the little PE basketball scenes, but that probably you can't really tell.
Fernando Mendoza, whoever gets to play that role, what a great honor for that actor. Also, with his mom, Elsa, who's every touchdown they show her, right? Huge at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. You got to put those things in the movie. Courtney Cox from Friends could be his mom, or you might as well take some liberties and make it Sofia Vergara. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might as well.
Might as well.
Might as well.
She would probably not have a problem with that.
Maybe Sofia Vergara, the mom, and Courtney Cox, the aunt.
Yeah.
Because the aunt was one that was also prominently shown.
They looked so similar. It's wild. So I wonder how that goes. You go to, like, Fernando Mendoza's family, which is like, hey, we think this Joe Keery guy would be perfect to play Fernando. Like, hey, yeah, all right. That's probably as good as it gets. Mom, we think that, we're going to find the sexiest Latina possible to play you as mom. And the boys are probably like, what? No, don't do that. The husband's like, perfect. Great.
Fernando the Fourth is like, absolutely.
Mom's like, wait, what? You wanted who to play me? I don't know how that works. I don't know. I mean, if someone came to me and was just like, here, fill in the most sexiest man alive, we want that person to play you in a movie, I'd be like, yeah. Obviously, that's what I look like.
Clearly, that's the choice.
It's the only person. Anyway,
I also like Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arnold's son, as who's now rising up the ranks and as a somewhat prominent actor. I could see him as Fernando Mendoza.
You might have a chance of some athleticism being there.
Yeah,
like he might be able to throw a football. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. And he's tall at least. So there's that. Okay, so anyway, Fernando Mendoza is a great story, and the legend only grows when you hear the behind-the-scenes stuff. This is Ricky Williams, yes, that Heisman Trophy winner, former Texas running back Ricky Williams, talking about an encounter he had with Fernando Mendoza at the Heisman Trophy presentation.
Well, I mean, not to put him out there, but we were in the back walking to the dais for like the Heisman brunch. And he was talking to Tim Tebow. I was talking to someone else, and I overheard him talking. And he was asking about girls, I tried to be a really dedicated football player, and I think I was, but I couldn't be so dedicated that I put girls to the side. And for him, he's that kind of guy who's so dedicated that he really put girls to the side to focus on football. And he was asking advice on, eventually I'm going to have to get into girls. So you guys got any advice for me?
Did you have any? What kind of advice did you give him?
Eventually.
I wasn't in a place to give him advice. So I said, keep focusing on football.
You should talk to one sometime.
Ricky Williams on the Dan Le Batard show, airing out that Fernando Mendoza apparently, not exactly a master with the ladies. He's asking other guys like, hey, when I eventually care about this, which by the way, you talk about the juxtaposition of him with that I don't even talk to girls versus the Carson Beck, the other quarterback in this game.
I don't do anything but talk to girls.
I mean, they kept cutting to Carson Beck's girlfriend, who is a professional dater, to put it lightly. Like, that's a wild, wild difference. Carson Beck is the Miami party boy who's already, before, in entering professional life, he's been in like a couple high-profile relationships. Girlfriends are a big story for him. And Fernando Mendoza is just like, guys, how do I talk to girls whenever I decide I need to do that? That's crazy.
The way that Ricky Williams put it, too, is when I get into them, or I should probably get into them soon. That is crazy.
So, thanks for the story, Ricky Williams. It's weirdly endearing. If this was anybody else, I'd be like, what a dork. But the fact that it's Fernando Mendoza and he's just like got this smile on his face and this effusive energy, and he's just like, amazing. Guys, we won the national championship. I love my teammates so much, and I can't wait to play more football.
And then instantly cry, and then instantly right after he gets everything out, starts crying.
He's like, oh my gosh, we won the national championship. He finally said a curse word, which was like refreshing for some people.
Yeah.
It was really, I mean, the kid is just, the whole thing is just too good. I think it was Michael Castricone, who's the Washington play-by-play guy, who tweeted something to the effect of like, watching a guy like him who was rejected by his hometown school win a national championship on the hometown field against the hometown team that rejected him, while his mother, who struggles with MS, is cheering in her wheelchair. He's like, it's as wholesome as it's ever going to get with college football. And I don't even care. I'm sure Fernando Mendoza made like $4 million this year, right? Like,
who cares?
It's not like Indiana is operating outside of the system that everyone else is operating in. It's just not the number one thing you talk about. It's probably why they win. It's probably why they're such a good team, because the salaries have not been a focus of Indiana football. Do you know? Have you, like, raise your hand, tweet at me, text me if you know, like, who the highest compensated guy aside from Fernando Mendoza is. We know for every other team, including our local teams, who's making the big money. I don't know who that is for Indiana. I can assume, but I don't know exactly who it is. It's wild.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If Fernando Mendoza was the BYU quarterback, would it be as endearing? And set aside, if as best you can, the rivalry, because I think culturally, I'm not sure it would be as endearing, because you expect that, and people who are not in that culture roll their eyes really hard at that sort of thing.
Well, look, BYU's quarterback is basically the same.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bear Bachmeier and Tiger Bachmeier go to the old folks' home on Sundays and play music and sing to the lonely folks that their families just stuck there and don't never visit. Like, it's not the exact same level of corny, but it is that level of corny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And it's very easy when you're a grumpy, jaded person like myself to just be like, that's not real. It's like, these kids are not as nice as they're pretending to be. I don't even care. If you're doing something like that, if you're Fernando Mendoza and every time somebody puts a microphone in front of your face, you like, now's a good time for me to glorify God. Now's a good time for me to defer all of the praise I'm getting and distribute it amongst my teammates. Now's a good time for me to tell everybody how grateful I am for the stuff around me and for my family. Like, I'll just buy it, man. Like, even if you're kind of a jerk sometimes away from the camera, if when you're given an opportunity to bask in your own spotlight, you say, no, look at what everyone else did for me, I like that. And the same thing with the Bachmeier. And by the way, your quarterback, Utah fans, Devin Dampier, very much the same thing. We talked to him every single week, and we had some laughs, and we would tell him how cool this thing was, and he, what did he do every single time? Like, man, my O-line, incredible. Wayshawn Parker did some great, like, it's how you want your quarterback to be. It's not seemingly how Carson Beck is. All right, and I don't mean to keep taking shots at that guy, but just the juxtaposition, the contrast could not be more pronounced.
Underdog story, Carson Beck. By the way,
He's been through so much. Okay. He's been through so much in his 7th year as a multi-million-dollar quarterback, who, by the way, did you see that stat that I tweeted? Apparently, and I don't even know this, he only lost 6 games in his college football career that he started. 4 of those 6 games, he has had the ball with an opportunity to drive down and win, and he threw an interception in those games. Turned the ball over. Now, it's not pile on Carson Beck Day, but that is a crazy stat.
Yeah.
Now, it also ignores the fact that against Ole Miss, they don't go down and score and win without his heroics, right? Without him playing well. He's a good enough quarterback to be in a position where we're talking about the 6 career losses that he has.
Yeah.
But that's a thing. If it's like in crunch time when the quarterback, when we're like, hey, we need you to be the guy that makes these plays. We can't run the ball right now. We have to have you do this for us. And he turns the ball over 4 times. That's a thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did I see you defending Carson Beck on Twitter a little bit? Because you said you started out that you quote tweeted someone who put that out there, and you said, well, that you started out saying, well, that ignores what he did in the wins,
because he has a lot more wins than losses, and so to just say that
only talk about the losses.
The only stat that matters is this one is inaccurate and dishonest, and I'm not going to do that because there's no reason to. But
Carson Beck fan OC,
we might be looking at a Shedeur Sanders type of situation here, where NFL teams are just like, I don't know. He was on a lot of really, really good teams. He had a lot of success. But I don't know. And in that case, it's not a good analogy with Shedeur Sanders because Shedeur was dragging some stuff along. I don't know that Carson Beck ever did. But I think when I do compare to Shedeur, I mean, are the NFL teams going to be like, we don't believe in him the same way that the media does?
Do you remember it was just 2 years ago, he was looked at as the presumptive number 1 overall pick at the start of the college football season. And I remember people saying it's not close. And then it's the year, I guess it was last year. It was the year that he broke his he had the arm injury. Was it the broken wrist that knocked him out of the playoff, and Gunnar Stockton supplants him. And then Georgia says, we're good with Gunnar Stockton. And it seems like since then, even though he got Miami to the national championship game, they had a really good year, obviously, his stock has just plummeted.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. All right, we got to take a break here. We're going to give away some PBR tickets and some 5-Finger Death Punch tickets next if you can answer a trivia question. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, wrapping up next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. 2 tickets to Five Finger Death Punch and PBR tickets. Coming up February 6th and 7th at the Delta Center. If you can answer this trivia question at 877-353-0700. Indiana 16-0. The last time that was done by a team at the very top of college football. We're talking major Division I national champions. The last team that did so going 16-0 was what school, what year? 2 sets of tickets if you have the answer to that question. They made a big show of it on the broadcast last night. We talked about it on our broadcast earlier today, 877-353-0700. If you know who the last major college football team to go 16-0 and win a national championship was. Sean O'Connell Show coming to a close. That means the drive with Spence Checketts is coming next. Spence Checketts is here for a little crosstalk brought to you by our friends over at Advanced Windows. $2,500 off 10 windows or more. 801-850-9100. Give them a call. Tell them OC sent you. Spence, how are you?
My mind is spinning. The hardware is like malfunctioning.
Why?
Rolling into the studio today, as I do every day, I tune into my favorite midday radio show, The Sean O'Connell Show.
All right.
And I hear former Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams share a story about meeting Fernando Mendoza. And paraphrasing, Fernando basically said he doesn't talk to women and doesn't know what to do. And maybe at some point should try to do that. Look, man, it's messing with my mind. It did remind me of the story I shared with you off air. As the legend goes, in the 90s, Tiger Woods went to a club with Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter. So at the time, like the 3 biggest athletes in the world go to this club, and they're surrounded by women. And as Michael Jordan tells the story, Tiger Woods sheepishly approaches him and says, I don't know how to talk to these women. What should I say? To which Michael Jordan responds, tell them that you are Tiger Woods. Now, obviously, Tiger took that advice and ran with it, as we know, as history tells us. But here's
just sprinted away with that news.
He's like, oh, okay, I'll just start doing that, and nearly ruin his life. But anyway, here's what I can't understand, all right? And you know this, Sean, you played sports. As a very young person, I made a very simple observation that seemed to motivate me to do certain things, which is athletes seem to date the prettiest girls. And the prettiest girls, and I hate to be stereotypical, don't get mad at me. When you're young, you see the cheerleaders, you see the dancers, and you're like, all right, those are the girls that I would like to date. How do I do that? Okay. I become good at sports. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. So I'm out back getting jumpers up. Mom's asking me to come in and do homework. I'm like, Mom, I can't. Due respect to the nerds that run the world, I have a motivation here. I need to get good at this, okay? And I was good enough at it to, play as long as I could. And certainly the better I got at it, I noticed the more attention I received. You're the Heisman Trophy winner, and you don't utilize that to date women is a really odd juxtaposition for me to wrap my mind around.
I don't know when. I think that interview was this morning on the Dan Le Batard show, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Ricky Williams could have done Fernando Mendoza the ultimate favor by letting that be known national championship week.
Yeah.
Because last night, Fernando Mendoza was a national champion, Heisman Trophy winner out on the town in Miami.
Yeah.
He probably would have been okay.
Oh, I'm sure he would have been fine outside of the fact that when he decides to talk, you're just like, what is up with this dude?
He's a human golden retriever. He's just excited about everything.
And there's I heard you talking about this. There's a sweet side of this, like a wholesome element to it where give me some of that. It's like when you see the kids at a grocery store and they're playing and you're like, oh, that's so cute. And then the parents yell at them and you're like, let them be kids. Okay. Let me be around the wholesome nature of children for a little bit longer. Let's not knock the beauty out of them. There's a wholesomeness to Fernando Mendoza that you don't see very often. You guys reference this. The quarterback on the other side has a current girlfriend that makes a living in a certain area of business and commerce. And I'm not judging. Go get your bag, okay? And the dichotomy between Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza, a really interesting thing to study. But just like hearing the Heisman Trophy winner, the best player in college football, say that he doesn't even talk to women, when anybody who's ever tried to be good at sports, I feel like one of the main pieces of motivation to get really good as an athlete is to date women, and he doesn't even talk to them. I'm going to be going to sleep tonight being like, dude, I've been doing it wrong my whole life.
Married to the game.
Respect.
There are people that are just that way. Their focus has to be wholly on the one thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. You hear players say that all the time.
Yeah, but
he's actually done it apparently.
Yeah, but people say that,
yeah,
and then they don't live it.
Well, apparently he does.
You tried to be very good at sports. How much of the motivation was so to make sure that your social life was what you wanted it to be?
All.
That's what I'm saying, Sean. This flies in the face of everything I've been taught.
Thank goodness my beautiful wife was such an MMA. She was such a fight groupie, or I never would have met her.
Well, it worked. Bottom line. The Heisman Trophy winner does not talk to women, but hell of a player. It really is it screws with your mind, because if you didn't know he was a football player and you just saw an interview, you'd be like, that guy is a gamer and a streamer and never leaves the house. And he's the best college football player in America. It's a hell of a story, man. I mean, all joking aside, and I'm going to try to bring this around as far as what does this mean for Utah football or BYU football. That is such a remarkable 2-year turnaround under Kirk Cignetti, and we'll see if they can keep it going. I was just, and I thought Miami really showed up last night. They were
Miami played great.
Yeah, and they're not going anywhere either. But for about, 6-7 years entering the college football season, it felt like, okay, it's going to be Bama. It's going to be Clemson. It's going to be Ohio State, maybe Georgia. It was like when the Warriors signed Durant. Like, why are we watching? They're going to win it. And this new era, it's interesting. I'll let you go after this. It seems like all of the things that we believe are chaotic about college football have actually brought parity and a better product to the game nationwide.
Well, look, Texas Tech was not a factor 5 years ago.
Right.
BYU was not a factor 5 years ago. Indiana was not a factor 5 years ago. All of those teams are top 10, top 15, and projected to be in the same spot next year. And I just used like the lowest hanging fruit there. There's a bunch of other squads that everyone's just like, where did they come from?
Yeah.
And now, Oregon is in the national title picture in a way that people thought they would never be able to stay. So it's pretty cool to see. Yes, there's some chaotic elements to it. Yes, there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. Yes, some teams benefit more than others, and those teams are the ones that have billionaire boosters who care.
Right.
And Indiana does.
Yeah.
And good for them, but we'll see how sustainable it is for the Hoosiers. We'll see how much you can copy it for everyone else. But you're right. 1996 was the last time you had a first-time college football national champion.
Mm-hmm.
And now here in 2026, it's happened again. And maybe in 2027, another team can do it for the first time ever.
Yeah, Kirk Cignetti last night and a couple of the players, like, why not us? Why not Indiana, who prior to this season had lost more college football games than any college football program in the history of the sport?
If you're Northwestern, who now has that title, you're champing at the bit.
Probably not Northwestern.
Oh.
They don't have a chance.
Oh.
But can you?
Why not them?
You know what? Why not them?
There you go.
Why not Northwestern? I wonder if this is a model that a program like Utah can follow. I don't know.
We got to find a Mark Cuban. Let it be Spence Checketts. Listen to The Drive, and he will try to figure out why Heisman Trophy winners don't talk to women. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN.